Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 237, I shall now allow comments, observations, or clarifications in relation to the petition for not more than 30 minutes. I will begin by calling out Osotsi.
Regard of the rule of law.
Well, Madam Speaker, I rise to support the petition and only add that I think that petition is very timely. I know the area that Senator Kajwang was referring to, and I understand that people in that area have a lot of challenges with the transport, and particularly the fishermen of that area. So I call upon the relevant committee to move with speed and process this petition so that the report can be tabled in this House and the relevant ministry can deal with the issues that the Senator has highlighted. I support.
I'll give the first shot to the Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Senator.
And
you can have Senator Chirchir.
Direct questions, direct answers, so that we can make good progress.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is a very interesting petition. I love that the Senator has decided to use the floor of this House to send out a call actually to the government on an issue that is extremely important to the people of Homa Bay County. It sounds to me well reasoned, a fair plea by Kenyans who deserve actually to be served by their government like any other Kenyans. Madam Speaker, the petitioners have even gone deeper into the details and ensured actually that they are aware that there is a budgetary allocation for this purpose. They even know the vote upon which this money has been allocated. I suspect they may even have a supply ready. You know, Senator Kajwang is my friend, and I know he's a very pragmatic citizen, and he may have planned his citizens well. But this is a very important petition, which I want to believe will be addressed should be addressed actually quite as fast as possible. You know, Madam Speaker, finally, I want to encourage my good friend Senator Kajwang. You know, one of the favorite counties of the new president is Homa Bay County. In fact, that's where he took his first prayer as president after being sworn in. Unfortunately, their good senator did not find it fit to attend the function. He should have mentioned to him if he was there and showed him the direction of Mfangano Island so that he ensured that the good citizens of Homa Bay enjoy the services that this ferry can provide. But I support this petition, Madam Speaker, and I hope that our Committee on Transport can help expedite it so that the good citizens of Homa Bay can live happily like the rest of the citizens in the country. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Aaron. We can now have Senator.
That you have been charged with the murder of
Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. I also want to join my colleagues in supporting this petition. This petition, Madam Speaker, is very important for us coming around, from the Lake Victoria. My constituency, my county is just a few kilometers from Kajwang's constituency. We are bordering in the lake, and Madam Speaker, I only would have wished that Senator Kajwang included Luanda Kotieno and Mageta Islands, which are also bordering, because our people interact on a daily basis, and transport is not for a constituency or a county. Transport is normally for interconnectivity between counties, between, for the whole country. So this, in the lake, Madam Speaker, there are quite a lot of people who die because of the safety of the boats they use in crossing. And it is a high time, Madam Speaker, that the government intervened and introduced safe transport in the lake so that our people can stop dying. All that the deaths are not reported, but they are on a daily basis, Madam Speaker. And Honorable Kajwang, I hope the petitioners are from your area. That's why they only petitioned for those islands. But when the provisions are eventually enacted, the boats, there should be ferries also connecting Luanda Kotieno and those other islands, so that our people can have safe transport and sail through. Madam Speaker, this is a very important petition, and I stand to support it. And thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. We can have Senator Manzo Daniel.
You graduate from secondary to
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this petition, and first and foremost,
that same degree from JK1.
You know, the issue of transport is about equity in the country, which is in the Constitution, such that what is happening in the port of Mombasa or any other place with water mass happens to other citizens of this country in any part of the country. And for equity, Madam Speaker, and there have been details as to even as to the budget and the preparedness of the House having allocated monies to solve this problem. The government, with speed, and even before our committee proceeds to Homa Bay, this matter should have even been sorted because of the urgency it has, and again also on issues of safety. Private entrepreneurs are the ones operating there, yet in Mombasa, the ferries there belong to the government and give service almost for free to the residents. Yet on the other side, there's no equity. There it is a private entrepreneur and the people have to pay, Madam Speaker. So while I support this petition, it is very important that these ferry services be offered to the Kenyans in Homa Bay, so that they can also enjoy the privileges other Kenyans in all parts of the country are. And Madam Speaker, I heard Senator Faki say that I don't have a water mass in Makueni. I want to inform him that I'm preparing Fake Dam, which is going to be the biggest dam in East and Central Africa, in Makueni. And therefore, I'll also soon need ferries to be connecting Makueni and Kitui counties. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
At one time in one of the malls.
Thank you, Senator Manzo.
On the nose of a security guard, and that cost her her job. Now,
let's have Senator Boni Halwale give comments.
Has been named in several cases.
Thank you, Madam
Speaker. A case to do with murder
it's a pity that today,
where she stormed together with her
in Kenya, it looks like the Kenya Ferry Services was created for Likoni. In fact, the people of Homa Bay and Kenyans should know there are only 5 ferries in Kenya. There's the Nyayo, there's the Harambe, there is the Kilindini, there is Kwale, all operating in Likoni.
Noting that this was a
Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker,
to the Parliamentary Service Commission.
You listen you like to inform me?
For the last 5 years.
Most welcome, sir.
Are your transgressions, are her transgressions?
Madam Speaker, I want to inform my brother, Senator Halwale, who resided in Mombasa for a long time. And we are grateful for his service to Portree's District Hospital then. But at the moment, there are about 7 ferries which operate across the Likoni Channel. And even in Tongwe, they have started the service. And unfortunately, after the incident which occurred in the year 2020, where the lady Miriam drowned with her daughter, the Kenya Ferry Services was transferred to Kenya Ports Authority. So there is no longer Kenya Ferry Service. It's now a department of Kenya Ports Authority. Thank you.
Thank you for the information. But when you are informing me, you should advance my frontier of knowledge. I've started by giving you the actual ferries. I've told you there is Harambe Ferry, there's another one called Nyayo, there's another one called Kilindini, the 4th one is called Likoni, and the 5th one is called Kwale. Well, you should have come and told me the 2 additional ones for me to know that you're adding knowledge to what I've said.
But thank you for acknowledging
that they were politically instigated.
And for this reason, it's wrong that the government has not seen the importance of using ferries. Ferries are important for transportation. In fact, even as we cry for the people of Mfangani Islands, why are we not making economic capital out of water transport? The entire island of Mombasa, the entire Mfungano Island and the other attendant islands in Lake Victoria can actually thrive on ferries as a mode of transport. In fact, it is faster to move from the islands to come to Siaya using ferries than to go around to Kisumu and round until you come by road. I therefore want to support this particular petition. And Mr. Speaker, I do it, Madam Speaker, I do it for good reason and for historical reasons. That the Abaluya people who are living in Suba Island, in Mfangani, the small house of the Luya house called the Abasuba, they have been marginalized in that area. When people address issues of the Abasuba, they don't realize they exist as an independent Luya house. I therefore want to congratulate Senator Kajwang, who is a fellow Luya from the Suba house, for coming up with this particular petition, Madam Speaker.
I am innocent. As the Constitution suggests, the presumption of innocence until proven guilty.
What is your point of order, Senator Kajwang?
Hold on that, Mr. Chairman.
What is the issue of my Senator Kajwang? What's your point of order?
Bachelor's,
it's a point of information to Senator Kalwale.
Senator Kalwale, do you wish to be informed?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, the good senator has talked about the roots of the Abasuba, and I think I'm a proud Abasuba, but I just wanted to tell Senator Kalwale that there is the river and the source. The source of the Abasuba could not have been the Abaluya. The source of the Abaluya could have been the Abasuba. So it needs to distinguish the river and the source. But to inform Senator Kalwale, the Abasuba who live on Mfangano Island and Rusinga Island and the areas called Kaksingri were people, members of the royal household of Baganda, who were purged when Kabaka Sema Kokiro led an uprising that led to the death of Kabaka Junju. And they cut off his testicles. And as a result, they were flushed out of the Kabaka kingdom. And they came to the islands. So we, the Abasuba, are part of the royal household of the Baganda kingdom.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I challenge the good senator to a DNA test at the community level. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the senator and the petitioners because they have now acknowledged the new thing in town. Madam Speaker, the new thing in town is the bottom-up policy of developing Kenya. And this is classical bottom-up. We want you to embrace it at the economic level and also embrace it politically. Politically, because some of the things I see happening on the other side in the minority, it is because of lack of democracy in the political thinking of that area, where you have pinned your thinking around a prominent personality. If it was not the case, my good brother-in-law Omugen here would not have been trending the way he was trending last week when
program is rolled on matters engaging
Madam Speaker, your chair has reiterated on the importance of relevance while contributing to the debate of this House. Is the majority whip in order to deviate from discussing a very important matter that deals with the transportation of Kenyans who are being denied that service, to now discussing
the contact of a party leader and suggesting that there is lack of democracy in this side of the aisle. Madam Speaker, I wish that you would find him completely out of order and you direct him to either withdraw and apologize or to substantiate the allegation that he's making. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
I want to say that this was broadly mentioned. And,
do you have a response to that?
Yes, Madam Speaker. I think the good Senator of Narok, if you have seen the nexus, I started by saying the importance in the economy of the people who are served by the ferry. Surely, those ferries are going to carry people to work. They are going to carry people to social functions. They are going to carry goods and services. And Madam Speaker, that improves the economy of the people. So how I have now veered away from the motion, I do not see. But if it pleases you that I have mentioned a party leader, please recall that on Hansard I have not mentioned the party of any particular political party or any coalition or any particular leader. I spoke as a standard of language. Bear with me, Senator Ledema. And for this reason, I support this very important motion and hope that it will be processed quickly through the committee. And as the Chief Whip in this House, I want to guarantee the people of Lesotho that I'll help in mobilizing members of parliament so that this motion can move quickly. And I want to, a petition, I want to ask members of the National Assembly to expedite in ensuring that Alice Wahome becomes the substantive cabinet secretary so that this can be referred to her ministry for action and eventual unlocking by His Excellency President William Samoei Ruto.
Thank you, Senator Boni. Your point of order was noted,
Yes,
Senator Olekina. Just allow the debate, the robustness of the debate, unless it has completely veered off, allow the wider perspective. I will ask Senator Sifuna to contribute.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this particular petition. I happen to have been privileged to visit the islands that my brother Senator Kajwang has spoken about on multiple occasions. I think the first time I was there, Madam Speaker, I was accompanied by Hilary Sigei, the senator from Bomet, and he can bear me witness that, Madam Speaker, this is one of the most beautiful places you can ever visit in this particular country of ours. And in fact, I have had a discussion with the Nairobi delegation, my sister Tabitha and my sister Karen, that when we retreat to discuss matters of Nairobi, we will go to these beautiful islands, Madam Speaker. It is the only place in this country where you can see the sun setting on water. And those of us who are hopeless romantics, I can see Lelengwe can't relate. But those of us who are hopeless romantics, Madam Speaker, we know the value of a sunset in the eyes of a lass when you are advancing your case. I have had the occasion, Madam Speaker, to also notice that in fact there are very few places I have seen on Lake Victoria that have white sandy beaches and palm trees. I think I have only seen one on the other side of Uganda in Entebbe and this Takawiri Island. Madam Speaker, it is very unfortunate and inequitable, as the Senator for Makueni has alluded to, that we have only ferry services on one side of a country. Many of us here will bear witness that, in fact, if it is not the ferry connecting Mombasa to Kwale County, in fact, the tourism business and industry in Kwale would not be thriving the way that it is. It is a lifeline, Madam Speaker, and we are praying that the same consideration that is given to the Likoni Channel is given to these particular islands, Madam Speaker. I have friends there in Kakimba village, which my brother here knows very well. Madam Speaker, some of them may be beneficiaries of the car loan from this particular house or the other house down there. But Madam Speaker, do you know you cannot transport your car so that your villagers can see that now the God that William Ruto, the president, worships has also seen you
and he has given you a motor vehicle of a standing of a senator or a member of parliament, because there is simply no way for you to get that vehicle to your village. So we want to stand with the people of the islands. It's the most beautiful place, and Madam Speaker, the way my senior Boni Khalwale has alluded to, in fact, those of us who come from that side of the country feel that sometimes there are some government services that are not applicable or available for us. We have not felt the weight of the tourism ministry in Western Kenya. There are beautiful places there that are never marketed by this tourism board that I hear about. The people of Mount Elgon, they have caves and elephants there, but we don't see the same level of marketing that we see in other places where we have tourism activities. If the people of the islands were allowed, or this petition were allowed to succeed, I personally have seen the sort of difference that it would make, because if you are left at the hands of private operators of these ferries, Madam Speaker, then they are exposed to the ravages of the economy, and these people are free to set the prices of these goods, and yet they are an essential good that is actually a lifeline to the people of these islands. So I want to just assure my friend, the Senator for Homa Bay, that he has a friend in the Senate of Nairobi and the entire delegation of Nairobi, because I want Tabitha Mutinda, the Senator, not to leave this house without having seen the sunset on Lake Victoria from Governor's Camp on Fagano Island. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator. Honorable Senator, since this is a petition, the observations and comments should be brief. We have only 10 minutes, maybe even 8 now. So I'll request all the senators to take at least 2 minutes, and we'll have about maybe five senators so that we close this matter. Senator Ledama Olekina.
When you're seated here, we are vetting you for a cabinet position, and they have
Madam Speaker, thank you. Madam Speaker, I'll go straight to the importance of ferry services. I rise to support this petition by the good senator from Homa Bay. Madam Speaker, when we're in this house, we try to make sure that we support each county to be able to generate on-source revenue, so that they can be able to deliver services better to their people. Ordinarily, when petitions are brought to this House, the end results or the outcome of a petition is for the committee to carry out an investigation, give the report back to the petitioner so that they can follow through. I would like to beseech the Committee on Transport to move further, to call the Maritime Authority, to be able to discuss with them. Also include the people of Homa Bay, the county government of Homa Bay, so that they can be able to get details on the importance of these islands. Because we are talking about the blue economy, but seldom do we now move forward. So I hope that when we are discussing this petition or investigating this petition, we can move forward and pronounce ourselves as the Senate. And I would like to beseech the chairperson of the Transport Committee to be able to go and introduce a motion so that we can see something, an outcome coming out that will be tangible. Because ordinarily we'll carry out petitions, we'll call people here, we'll grill them, but what is the outcome? How are people going to be able, what are take-homes? Take-home, Madam Speaker, should be that even if it is through a private partnership project, just like we have this expressway going on now, that can also be able to help the people of Homa Bay. So, Madam Speaker, I support and I call upon the Committee on Transport to seriously consider moving a motion for this Senate to pronounce itself on what needs to happen to build that blue economy. Madam Speaker, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Senator Madzayo Stewart. Senator for Kilifi.
Your chances will come. Baya, have you finished? No, I'm still
Asante, Speaker. Speaker, cha kwanza ni kwamba nataka kuwashukuru sana. Cha kwanza, cha pili. Kwanza nataka kushukuru wale ambao wameleta hii ardhi hali wakiongozwa na Daniel Rakoko juu ya watu wa Homa Bay vile wanavyoishi katika hali ya hivi visiwa. Bispika, tunaelewa kwamba visiwa watu wanavyoishi ni hali ngumu ya usafiri. Ni kwamba watu hawezi kutoka nyumbani akiwa na mizigo, akiwa na nguo, akiwa anaenda skuli ama anaenda popote anapokuwa na haja napo kuingia kwa maji na kuweza kuogelea akiwa na nguo. Hawa ni watu ambao wanahitaji usafiri wa kikamilifu kama wa Kenya, vile ambavyo Kenya Ferry Services zinaweza kutoa huduma kama hizo kwa watu wa Mombasa na pande zingine zote. Bispika, tunaona kwamba mara nyingi katika visiwa pia huwa kuna wakulima, kuna wafanya biashara mbalimbali, kuna wavuvi, lakini kwa muhimu sana ukiangalia kwa upande wa wavuvi na pengine wale ambao wanafanya mambo ya ukulima, utaona ya kwamba Bispika, wanahitaji kwenda katika markiti ili kuuza vitu vyao, na hii hali pia inakuwa ngumu. Kwa hiyo tunaona kama ikiwa hali hii itaendelea kuumiza watu wanaoketi katika hizi islands ambazo ni kama Mfangamano, Rusinga na zingine. Kwa hiyo tunasema ya kwamba kama ikiwa Ferry Services inaweza kwa haraka sana ikachukua hatua, na ambavyo pesa zimeweza kuletwa, zimeshaweza kuwekwa, Bispika, tunasema ya kwamba kiwa pesa ziko na hizo ferry zinaweza kupatikana, ingekuwa vyema kama serikali yetu ikachukua hatua mwafaka ya uharaka zaidi ili kuweza kupeleka hizo ferry kuweza kusaidia watu wanaoishi katika hivi visiwa. Bispika, naomba dakika moja tu nimalizie.
Senator, you have 20
Kwa kumalizia, Bispika, ningependa tu ya kwamba kuhimiza uharaka, kwa sababu kuna magonjwa, kuna wafanya biashara, kuna watu tofauti wanaohitaji mahitaji haya hizi ferry. Kwa hiyo langu tu ni kusisitiza kwamba ingekuwa bora serikali ichukue hatua mwafaka ya haraka iwezekanavyo. Asante Bispika.
Thank you, Senator Mazayo. We'll now have Senator Mungatana.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I think this is in the public knowledge.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the issue of transportation between Mbita and Mfangano Island is not a new issue. Madam Speaker, the Governor, Her Excellency Wanga, raised this issue in the 10th Parliament and the 12th Parliament in the National Assembly as a woman rep. Madam Speaker, when you see an issue has been raised and re-raised, it points out to the importance that I believe this issue should be given, the weight that this issue must be given. So I congratulate Mheshimiwa Kajwang for revisiting this issue. The point I wanted to make, Madam Speaker, is on the regulations of safety by Kenya Maritime Authority. Madam Speaker, as the Committee for Transport is looking at this issue to expedite it, to make sure that it happens as per this petition that is before this House, it is also an opportune time that the Delegated Legislation Committee, when we form it today, we'll take the opportunity also to look at the rules of safety so that we can make them viable and update them where we are, Madam Speaker, so that these ferries, as they continue to operate, they do not become a source of grief for all of us. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Mungatana. Now we will have Senator Wambua.
Thank you, Chair. My question to the nominee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will say just two things in support of that petition that has been presented by Senator Kajwang. One, I find it a very, very clever way of pushing forward the accountability agenda. Very, very clever, because what Senator Kajwang has done is that he has gone further with the petitioners to identify the funding that has been set aside for this project, including the voted, and with that, it will become very, very difficult for anyone to say that funds are not available for this project, because the question would be the funds that were allocated at 300 million Kenya shillings, where has that money been diverted to? So it's a very, very clever way of doing accountability before the spending starts. Second example, Madam Speaker, is the importance of marine transportation in the whole issue of
does not reflect
blue
the
economy.
face of Kenya. What strategy
it is true that, Madam Speaker, marine transportation is an integral part of the blue economy. Without transportation of human beings, it shall be difficult to extend the services and deliver goods from one point to the other, especially on the lake transportation corridors. Madam Speaker, I sit in the Roads Committee, and I want to commit to my brother,
and I know the journey
and I know you also sit in that committee,
and I know it's not an easy
that
task.
maybe
I just want
there is a senator, I can't remember who said, it was Senator Sifuna, who said that Senator Mutinda must make sure that she visits the islands. Maybe this will be an opportunity for her to visit those islands, and I believe she will come back home safe. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Seems to be
I want to
personalized
start,
invitation to our
maybe
senator
give a
there to
brief
visit the
continuation
islands. Let's
on the
have
strength that,
Senator
experience that
Mohamed
I have.
Faki.
Mr. Baya, what I can
Asante
say is
Spika kwa
that,
kunipa fursa hii
I'm a law
kuchangia
abiding
ardhi hali
citizen.
ambayo imeletwa bungeni na Senator wa Homa Bay, Senator Otieno Kajwang. Mheshimiwa Spika, swala ambalo Mheshimiwa Kajwang amelizungumzia katika ardhi hali hiyo ni muhimu sana, kwa sababu usafiri wa majini ni njia moja kubwa ambayo inatumika hususan katika mji wa Mombasa, makaunti ya Mombasa, na vile vile pia mji wa Lamu, ambapo visiwa vingi viko kando kando, na usafiri ambao ni muhimu peke yake ni usafiri wa majini. Mheshimiwa Spika, swala la feri ni kwamba feri kutoka ianzishwe pale Mombasa haijakuwa kwa njia yoyote, Mheshimiwa Spika. Japokuwa vyombo zile feri zinazofanya kazi pale zimeongezeka, lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, hakuja kuwa na upanuzi wowote wa biashara ile ama huduma ile ya feri katika kaunti ya Mombasa. Labda kina Kajwange wanaliangoa kwamba hawana feri, lakini hata sisi pia ile huduma ambayo inatolewa pale ni duni sana kulingana na vile serikali haijawekeza katika huduma ile. Mheshimiwa Spika, itakumbukwa kwamba Kenya Ferry iliundwa baada ya ajali ya feri ambayo ilitokea mwaka 1994 ambapo karibu watu 250 walipoteza maisha yao katika feri ya Mtongo ambayo ilizama. Mheshimiwa Spika, baada ya muda huduma zikadorora kwa sababu hakuja kuwa na uwekezaji wa serikali, mpaka wananchi wapige kelele ndio kuongezwe feri. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, swala hili ni swala ambalo si la serikali kuu peke yake, lakini serikali za kaunti pia inatakana ziwekeze katika mfumo huu wa usafiri. Kwa mfano Mheshimiwa Spika, katiba inasema kwamba feri na bandari ni jukumu la serikali za kaunti. Kwa hivyo iwapo zile fedha ambazo zinawekwa katika feri zitaweza kuregeshwa katika zile kaunti ambazo zina usafiri ama zina mahali ambapo wanaweza kuregesha vyombo, itasaidia pakubwa Mheshimiwa Spika kurahisisha usafiri. Mheshimiwa Spika, jambo lingine ambalo tumeona ni kwa Kenya Maritime Authority ambao ndio inatakana iangalie masuala haya.
Faki, please wind up your comment, 10 seconds.
Mheshimiwa Spika, asante. Kenya Maritime Authority, Mheshimiwa Spika, haijaweza kufanya jambo lolote kuhusiana na masuala haya. Ni Mombasa peke yake ndipo wameweza kukaa, na mpaka sasa Mheshimiwa Spika, hakuna mahali pengine popote ambapo wameweza kwenda wakafanya huduma kama hizo. Tukiangalia Mheshimiwa Spika,
I'll make sure that Kenya is one And
thank you, Senator Mfaki. We are now winding up this issue, this petition. Comments on the petition. We'll only allow Senator Chimera and Senator Beatrice to give a very brief comment, each of them.
Also initiated to making sure that all Kenyans, irrespective of their gender, tribes,
thank
religion,
you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. I rise to support the petition by Honorable Moses Kajwang from Homa Bay County. This is a very, very crucial petition, noticing the fact that some of us also come from areas where we use the ferry on a daily basis. And we also have areas in Kwale County, specifically Funzi Island, Mkwiro and Wasini, where it is even risky to cross without this ferry. I believe this service will not only empower the people of Homa Bay, especially the hustlers there when they cross, but I wish to also urge the Committee on Transport to cast their net wider when they're investigating this whole situation, and include such areas that I've mentioned, Funzi, Wasini and Mkwiro, that our people can be able to get access to transport services so that they can do their business in time, effectively and efficiently. I therefore rise to support this petition. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
After Mishi, I'll give to
Madam Speaker, I rise to support the petition by my senator. Madam Speaker, if you are at the shores of Lake Victoria, it only brings lots of misery to our people and everybody else that watches our people as they prepare to take their travel to Mfangano. Each morning, each day, as they travel across the lake without the proper ferry services, as they leave, people are never sure of whether they'll reach their destination. Without the proper ferry services, Madam Speaker, our people travel in very undignified ways. If you look at the boats that they use, there's everything in that boat as people begin the journey. Madam Speaker, it not only touches on the safety of the people that use the lake, but it also touches on their dignity, because in those boats there are cows, there are building materials, there's everything as they travel. So you can only imagine, Madam Speaker, when something goes wrong, what happens. I stand on my foot to support this petition. Thank you.
Kupata wizara hii iwapo wabunge watakubali.
Honorable Senators,
unaona ya kwamba
safety and mobility on water are very crucial,
ambazo zinapatikana kupitia
pursuant to Standing Order 238(1), this petition should be committed to the relevant standing committee for its consideration. In this case, I direct that the petition be committed to the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing. And in terms of Standing Order 238, the committee is required in not more than 60 calendar days from the time of reading this prayer to respond to the petitioner by way of a report addressed to the petitioner and laid on the table of the Senate. Thank you.
Kwa Kiingereza tunasema gender based violence, na tumeona madhara mingi
Order
sana
number 5, papers.
Kupoteza maisha yao na wengine pia kupoteza haki zao za kimsingi, ikiwa mishahara na ikiwa pia yale mambo ya kimsingi ambayo mfanyikazi anatakana yapate kutoka kwa mwajiri wake. Tunajua jambo hili linaangaliwa sana katika Wizara ya Leba na pia katika Wizara ya Nchi za Kigeni, lakini pia katika wizara yako ambayo inaangalia huduma za umma,
Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, mambo ya kijinsia na mambo ya hatua ya uthibitisho. Ile
I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the Senate. Today, 18th October 2022, being reports of the Auditor General for the year ended 30th of June 2022,
and 21
on the financial statements of the following. 1. Narok County Executive, Narok County Assembly, Narok County Assembly Loan and Mortgage Fund, Narok County Bursary Fund, Narok Water and Sewerage Services Company Limited, Baringo County Executive Mortgage Scheme Fund, Baringo County Assembly for Members Car Loan and Mortgage Fund, Baringo County Assembly Staff Car Loan and Mortgage Fund, Baringo County Assembly Catering and Health Services Scheme Fund, Baringo County Older Persons and Persons Living with Disability Fund, Baringo County Lake Bogoria Community Grant, Baringo County Community Wildlife Conservation Fund, Baringo County Bursary and Scholarship Fund, Baringo County Emergency Fund, Kirandich Water Company,
Ministry of Public Service.
16 Kirinyaga County Assembly Mortgage for Members Scheme Fund, and Kirinyaga County Car Loan for Members Fund, Kirinyaga County Facility Improvement Fund, Kirinyaga County Alcoholics Drink and Substance Abuse Control Fund, Kirinyaga County Health Sector Service Fund, Kirinyaga County Education Bursary Fund, Kirinyaga Water Sanitation Company Limited, Rukanga Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Kisii County Veterinary Services Development Fund, Members Car Loan and Mortgage Scheme, Nyandarua County Assembly Car Loan and Mortgage Scheme for members, Nyandarua County Assembly Car Loan and Mortgage Scheme for the staff, Nyandarua County Assembly, Nyandarua County Civil Servants Car Loan and Mortgage Scheme Fund, Nyandarua Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Nyandarua County Bursary Fund, Nyandarua County Emergency Fund, Olkalau Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Kajiado County Executive.
Your standing order. Point of order.
Madam Speaker, did you just see what Senator Gloria did? She just crossed from there aside, passed through the place that the minority whip is sitting, and just walked straight to go and talk to Senator Aji.
Gloria,
Madam Speaker.
Yes. I'm being gagged. Yes. Because what is before us...
Nobody's gagging you. Remember...
Honorable Master wants to intimidate me, and I'm really beyond intimidation, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Posing, nobody will intimidate you. I'll protect you.
Yeah.
You just ask a question. Let the nominee answer when her time comes.
Yes, exactly.
If you are challenging her academic qualifications,
yes,
go ahead and do so, and she will be able to answer, and the chair will guide. The committee will make a decision.
I'm asking that, Honorable Chair, because that being the top public service is required of this.
The question.
And the clarification which I'm seeking is what she got in Form 4, because the papers before us is that she got a D- in Form 4. And I'm comparing that, Honorable Speaker, with a degree. You know, and I'm asking myself, if you are in Pokot, for example, can you really get a D- and get a degree? What is the road of getting that degree, Honorable Chair? Brings questions. I want the nominee to clarify what she got in Form 4 and the relationship between that one and the degree she has. I thank you.
Information.
Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. Point of information through the chair is that I know people who have gotten who have joined university having gotten a very lower mark in KCE. A casing example is Kennedy Odede, who is now on the board of USAID. He was a former street boy, didn't go through high school, but because of the community work he did in Kibra, he went to an Ivy League college, Wesley College in the United States of America.
Point of order,
and
Mr.
so I
Chair.
think it's important that we put that in perspective. Point of information.
Point of order, Chair.
Is that, Honorable Chair, is that to inform who?
Order, Naisula.
Thank you.
Is that to inform who, Speaker?
Thank you.
Naisula, hold on, position.
Inform me.
Thank you, Chair. You know, by going by your ruling, and I have no doubt in my mind that the Cabinet Secretary nominee is capable of answering questions that have been asked, but it is unfortunate, actually, the members who feel that they need to defend the CS nominee are not doing a service to her because they're making her look like she can't answer her own questions, and I know she can.
She will answer her questions. She will not feel intimidated. And all of you who know Aisha, you can't intimidate Aisha.
Exactly.
Aisha just answer questions, and the quality of the answers you leave to us to judge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I believe we need to continue with the...
yes, we proceed. You have asked your question. The next is Mule.
Thank you, Speaker. And I just want to encourage members. We are here to vet nominees. We are not here to defend nominees. Let's maintain our decorum. We will have your time to do your report. This goes to the nominee. Madam Aisha, you know very well you are going to the Public Service Department, which is the largest employee of Kenyans in this country, has a serious, huge bill, and it requires serious reforms, including
National Police Service.
The units
in the message, His Excellency the President conveys that in exercise of powers conferred by Article 245(2)(a) of the Constitution of Kenya, I, William Samoei Ruto, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defence Forces, nominate Engineer Japhet Kome Nchembere for appointment as the Inspector General of Police of the National Service. Honorable Senators, Article 245(2)(a) provides that the Inspector General is appointed by the President with the approval of Parliament.
Thank you, Chair.
Further, pursuant to Section 12(2) and 7 of the National Police Service Act, number 11 of 2011 states as follows. The President shall within 14 days after a vacancy occurs in the office of the Inspector General, nominate a person for appointment as an Inspector General and submit the name of the nominee to Parliament. Section 12(7), Parliament shall within 14 days, when it first meets after receiving the names of the nominees, A, consider the suitability of the nominee, B, either approve or reject the nominee for appointment, and C, the Speaker of the National Assembly of the decision of the Parliament. Honorable Senators, as was agreed and executed during the previous approvals for the position of the Inspector General of Police, and in order for Parliament to effectively conduct the vetting process, the following procedure shall apply. 1. That the vetting of the nominee for appointment as Inspector General of Police shall be conducted jointly by the committees of the two houses mandated to deal with matters of national security. The vetting process will therefore be conducted by the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations of the Senate, and the Departmental Committees on Administration and Internal Affairs of the National Assembly. 2. That the chairpersons of the two committees will co-chair the joint sittings, and the Secretariat will comprise officers of the two houses. 3. That the quorum of the joint sittings will be the respective quorums of each of the subcommittees as stipulated by the respective standing orders. 4. That as contemplated under Rule 9(6) of the joint rules, unless a decision is reached by consensus, any vote to be taken in the joint sitting of the committees shall be by separate houses. This will ensure that the numerical difference of the individual members representing the houses in the joint sittings has no effect on the decisions of the joint sittings of the committee. And 5. That the committees shall, having conducted the vetting hearings, submit a joint report to the respective houses in the manner contemplated by the paragraph 7 of the Joint Rule 9. Honorable Senators, Section 8(1) of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011 states, unless otherwise provided in any law, a committee shall consider a nomination and table its report in the relevant house for debate and decision within 14 days from the date on which the notification of nomination was given in accordance with Section 5. 7. Section 9 of the Act further states, if after the expiry of the period for consideration specified in Section 8, Parliament has neither approved nor rejected a nomination of a candidate, the candidate shall be deemed to have been approved. In this regard, the period on the matter that is now before Parliament starts running upon the Speaker of the National Assembly committing the name of the nominee to the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs. Honorable Senators, Standing Order 77-1 of the Senate Standing Orders provides that further section provides that as contemplated provides that upon receipt of a notification of nomination for appointment to a public office required to be approved by the Senate under the Constitution of any other legislation, the nomination shall stand committed to the relevant standing committee for consideration. This message, therefore, together with the resume of the nominee, stands committed to the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations of the Senate for vetting jointly with the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Affairs of the National Assembly in accordance with the provision of the National Police Service Act, Public Appointment, Parliamentary Approval Act, and the Standing Orders of the Houses of Parliament. I thank you. From Honorable Amason Jeffa Kingi, the Speaker of the Senate, I have read on his behalf.
I want to tell through you, Mr. Chairman, that we will only have
proceed to the next order.
Cut across the gender. So I think you should not be worried. Being a woman and a leader, I understand, and a mother, I understand that there is a boy child to be protected and also a girl child as well. So, Mheshimiwa Mule, I think all that will be done in this ministry will be for the good of Kenyans.
What are you going to do about Chair?
Honorable Mule, you're out of order.
Thank you.
Go on, Aisha. If you answer,
I still believe
if the answer is inadequate, you seek clarification through the chair. Carry on.
Mheshimiwa Raso, through the chair, I still believe and a strong believer of the two-third gender rule as enshrined in the Constitution. And I think there was no single day, if my memories are still fresh, that in Parliament we had a motion to saying that women should be let free to come to Parliament. So I think it is a constitutional requirement, and we will stand firm to making sure that is realized. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mishi Mbogo.
Oh, Mheshimiwa Mishi, asante sana. Umeniuliza kuhusu masuala ya huduma. Kwanza nataka niseme ya
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Idea yote ambayo iko nyuma ya huduma centers. Na kile ambacho labda nimesikia ukisema Kenya Kwanza walikuwa wanapinga. Nikikumbuka vizuri pia wakati huo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Appointment of a joint select committee on election of members to the East African Legislative Assembly. That Madam Speaker, acknowledging that the East African Legislative Assembly is established under Article 9 of the treaty for the establishment of East African Community as one of the key organs and institutions of a community responsible for the community's legislative matters. Recognizing that Article 50 of the treaty provides for the election of members of EALA by respective partner states legislatures in accordance with their parliamentary procedure for a term of 5 years. Further aware that East African Legislative Assembly Election Act 2011 contemplates the conclusion of election of members of a new assembly to be within 90 days before the expiry of the term of the subsisting assembly, noting that the term of the current East African Legislative Assembly will come to an end on the 17th of December 2022. Cognizant of the need to urgently conclude the election process for East African Legislative Assembly to commence transacting business of the East African Community. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 9 of the House of Parliament Joint Sittings Rule, the Senate resolves that 1. To establish a joint select committee consisting of 7 members from each House of Parliament to undertake the functions contemplated under the East African Legislative Assembly elections of members of the Assembly Rules of 2017. 2. That the following members represent the Senate in the Joint Select Committee. 1. Senator Daniel Kitonga Manzo as a proposed co-chairperson. Senator Raphael Chimera, Senator Joyce Chepkoech-Korir, Senator Miraj Abdullahi Abdul Rahman, Senator Chute Mohamed Said, Senator Joseph Githugu Kamau, Senator Beatrice Akinyi Oyomo, and 3, that the office of the clerks of the House of Parliament provides for secretariat services to the Joint Committee in accordance with the standing orders, and that the Joint Committee reports to the Houses of Parliament within the timeline stipulated in the East African Legislative Assembly election of the Members Assembly Rules of 2017. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Katika manifesto ya Kenya Kwanza, nafikiri kuna pesa ambazo zimepangwa katika zile za Hustler Fund pamoja na programs ambazo tuko nazo katika wizara za uwezo na WEF. Tutahakikisha ya kwamba wasichana wetu wengi
Order number 7 statements
kufaidika katika fund hizi ili wakaweze kujiajiri katika nchi yao na kufanya biashara katika nchi yao.
Let me first invite Senator Wambua, who had an urgent statement on security issue, to issue that before we proceed with the rest of the statement.
Wa nafasi za kazi, kwa sababu wale wanaoenda ughaibuni wanaenda kutafuta kazi. So katika mikakati katika serikali ya Mheshimiwa Ruto, nafikiri amezungumza mara nyingi kwamba kazi na ubunifu itakuwa agenda yake kubwa.
I thank you, Madam Speaker, for indulging me and giving me an opportunity to seek this statement on matters of security. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the heightened insecurity situation in Mudha Ward of Kitui County. Madam Speaker, in the statement, the committee should, 1, appraise the Senate on the measures the national government has put in place to respond to the current insecurity situation affecting the residents of Mudha Ward in Kitui South constituency of Kitui County, perpetuated by gun-wielding bandits who have invaded parts of the ward, leaving in their wake death and destruction. Number 2, undertake a visit to the county to ascertain the level of response by the security operators at both county and national government, which has been wanting, and investigate the underlying reasons for the attacks. Number 3, state the reasons for the delay in response to the matter, noting that on Friday, 14th October this year,
Mr. Chairman,
the bandits armed with crude weapons invaded the said Mudha Ward of Kitui South constituency and hacked to death a man named Motoko. Number 4, provide targeted interventions to resolve the matter, noting that this was the second attack by bandits in the space of 1 month, as another similar attack happened on 18th of September
at Masiungwa area of Sikuru Ward in Mwingi North constituency of Kitui County, in which two men, namely Musimi Ndana and Mudhui Kamuti, were attacked with machetes by Kamo others who invaded their farms and are currently hospitalized at Mwingi Level 4 Hospital. And 5, clarify whether the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government has established additional police posts in the affected areas or deployed rapid deployment units and National Police Service to complement security operators to ensure that Modha Ward, parts of Gomeni Ward, that is in areas including Gasiloni, Mandongoi, and in Nyanzae, parts of Nguni Ward, especially Susoma area, and parts of Sikuru Ward in the area around Masiungwa, and parts of Endau Malarani Ward are ensured of sustainable efforts to secure the residents and enforce lasting peace. Madam Speaker, if you just allow me 1 minute on this. As I speak, Madam Speaker, residents of Modha Ward are running away from their homes as I speak now, because they have been invaded and they are being attacked by bandits who are masquerading as camel farmers. Madam Speaker, camels in Kitui now have become an enemy of the people, and every time a resident of Kitui sees a camel, they see death. Because the minute you try to drive away a camel from your farm, you are attacked by the herders and probably killed. Madam Speaker, I wish the Security Committee would take this matter very, very seriously and we ensure lasting solutions to this menace. Yesterday, Madam Speaker, and that's what I'm going to conclude there. Yesterday, when the cabinet nominee for defense was being vetted, he went on record that he has 250 camels, all grazing in parts of Kitui. Madam Speaker, this is a matter that must come to an end. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Just on paper, or is there anything really going to be done by you when you go in, because you are a hard worker yourself? You have said it. You've got where you are through hard work.
And then we move to the rest of the statements.
In the public service,
only 2 comments. There are very many statements
as well.
on the order paper today.
You have said about the 2/3. Yes, you believe in it. But what approaches are you going to have in achieving 2/3 gender principle in all sectors of public and in Parliament? Will you bring a bill to Parliament to pass that we have gender rule is satisfied? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the mic. Madam Speaker, as much as we appreciate the honorable senators from Kitui statements, one thing I want to tell the House is that this time there's a terrible drought, there's famine, and the country. Those camels belong to Kenyans, and we appreciate for those animals to at least be taken care of by our brothers and sisters in Kitui. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, one thing you should know is that these are resources for Kenyans. If you said get oil in Ojia, we will not discriminate. Whether one comes from Kitui, whether one comes from Ojia. Equally, those animals, I think, have some right to graze in those places with all, with at least due consideration. We will tell I'm requesting the Kitui Senator, Mheshimiwa Mutua, to be lenient and consider the situation. Today, those animals are actually faced with death. The owners actually are faced with famine, and they need to keep the animals alive, and therefore we will appreciate the generosity of Kitui people and Ukambere Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you,
and
Senator.
I want to assure you I'm always bamboozled
comment.
by this Swahili every day they speak. Aisha and Mishi. But I want to ask, I see your document.
Asante sana Spika kunipa fursa hii. Mambo ya usalama Bwana Spika na ufugaji umekuwa ikiandamana, na ni vizuri julikane wazi kazi kuu ya serikali ni kulinda maisha na mali ya wananchi. Bwana Spika, ni jambo ambalo limekuwa likifanyika Laikipia. Wafugaji wanakuja wanachunga katika mashamba ya watu, anakuambia kwamba yeye anachunga nyasi na hachungi mchanga. Ati mchanga ndio wako, lakini mimea iliyoko ni ya wanyama. Spika, ni vizuri ijulikane wazi ya kwamba mashamba yana wenyewe, na yule ambaye ni mfugaji, hakuna mtu ambaye anasema hapaswi kuwa na mifugo yake, lakini mifugo ambayo unaweka, unapaswa uweke mifugo ambayo idadi yake unaweza ukaweka kwa shamba lako, kwa sababu yule mkulima ambaye ameweka mimea yake ana haki vile vile ya kuweka mimea yake, kwa sababu anategemea mimea ile. Na wewe ambaye unategemea mifugo yako uiweke kwa shamba ambalo itatoshea mifugo ambayo umeiweka. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri tuheshimiane. Mkulima na mimea yake heshimiwe, mfugaji na mifugo yake aheshimiwe. Kenya ni yetu yote na tuishi kwa kitu kimoja. Kwa hivyo kama ni mimea yako, huendi kama ni kupanda, huendi ukapanda kwa shamba ya yule ambaye ameweka mifugo yake. Kwa hivyo Spika, ni vizuri, nataka kuunga mkono taarifa iliyoletwa na Senator Wambua ya kwamba wale ngamia wachungwe kwa shamba lao, na wale wafugaji waweze kupewa haki yao kikatiba na kisheria kuwa wanaishi katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Asante Spika.
Pregnancies, and I think it has reached a time, as what Mheshimiwa Laisuda has said, that we engage more to the
Senators,
users.
this being an important matter,
we engage more
I
to the
hereby
users
commit this to the standing committee.
These are the best people to know that yes, it is good to have.
I had made a ruling that only 2 people would contribute to that statement.
So I think engagements
we have very many statements today, Senators. Unless if we don't want to receive some of them,
ignore them. Address the chair.
Okay, that is noted.
Sorry, Mr.
That
Chairman.
is noted.
Ferdinand, you are out of order.
Yes, I'll give you a chance, but you wait until I finish what I am reading out.
Thank you.
We are committing this matter to the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations to issue a statement on the insecurity situation in Mudha Ward, Kitui County.
Perhaps it's because I was their colleague.
What is your point of order?
Mr. Chairman, as I was responding to Mheshimiwa Wanyonyi, I was saying that engagement on the community, at the community level, families, and our work.
Okay, let's hear you.
Speaker,
will be on
katika mjadala ambayo inaletwa ndani ya bunge, Spika, singependelea kuweza kueleza vile ambavyo unatakana ufanye. Najua kazi yako unaifanya kisawasawa, lakini haki na utendaji wa kazi ni lazima viende pamoja. Upande huu wana haki pia ya kuchangia kama mswada umeletwa. Nimeona, ninashangaa sasa kuona ya kwamba unaelekeza upande mmoja wanaongea, alafu upande huu mwingine haupewi nafasi ya kuongea. Sitaki kukosea ama kukukosoa katika uamuzi wako uliofanya, lakini nafikiria kwa wakati mwingine tukipata nafasi kama hiyo, ingekuwa bora upeane nafasi kwa upande huu uwasikize pia, na hawa pia uweze kuwasikiza kisawasawa, sio kulalia upande mmoja na upande mwingine ukuacha hivi hivi. Asante Spika.
lead it myself from the front to making sure that things are happening.
What's your point of order, Senator Chirchir?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think I noted, and I think Senate Minority Leader should also be fair since he's a lawyer. During the last contribution on the petition, you gave two people, if I remember, from the side of minority, and we never complained. So the issue of saying there is discrimination in terms of people who can speak on a motion or a statement or on a bill is a bit unfair. And for heaven's sake, Madam Speaker, this is your maiden presiding of the House.
Thank you, Mr.
So
Chairman.
give it. So at least be fair. And you are doing very well, extremely well. And for the purposes of record, the statement came from the minority side. They should be gracious enough when it comes to, and we supported them.
And we actually supporting them. What he's asking,
I will exercise
not
my discretion. I want to assure both sides of the House that the Speaker is allowing everybody to contribute to the motion. That statement came from the minority side, but to assure that assurance, to give that assurance further, I will still give somebody to comment on that statement.
In Nairobi,
we could have one person comment on that statement.
85 million
committed.
And the rest are
so we move on. Okay, thank you. I stand guided. We are assured, you are assured of the Speaker's neutrality in allowing everyone to contribute. So we'll go back to the order paper. And I also want to comment on. I want to comment on Senator Chirchir's what you noted. I actually did not give two. I gave them a little more than what was given to the majority side. So stand assured that you are in safe hands. Let's move to the next item. The next statement, pursuant to Standing Order 52-1. We will get the statement from Senator Abdul Haji concerning the plan by Safaricom PLC to block unregistered SIM cards by 15th October 2022.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 52-1 to make a statement on a matter of inter-county importance and general topic concern, namely concerns over the plan by Safaricom PLC to block SIM cards that will not have been re-registered by Sunday, 15th October 2022. Madam Speaker, there are millions of Kenyans in need of humanitarian aid, especially in the northern counties and other arid and semi-arid lands, areas of Kenya where the populace is faced by the debilitating effects of severe drought. It is appreciated that many non-governmental organizations have stepped in to offer the much-needed support during this time. These humanitarian organizations reached at least 598,100 people in the Asal region with life-saving and life-sustaining assistance between October 2022 and October 2021 and May 2022, including 534,000 in 2022 alone. Madam Speaker, this support, aimed at mitigating the effects of drought, includes water tracking, provision of human and animal feeds to protect livelihoods, health services, and most importantly, cash transfers to thousands of beneficiaries across the more than 20 drought-stricken counties. Needless to say, these cash transfers run into billions of shillings. Madam Speaker, I'm not in contention of the fact that SIM cards must be registered to prevent crime, fraud, and other malpractices, and I'm also aware that the need to re-register the SIM cards is a compliance requirement in accordance with the Kenya Information and Communication Act. However, Safaricom needs to take cognizance of the special circumstances of most of the people in the ASL areas. All of these cash transfer beneficiaries, mostly pastoralists, receive this support through M-Pesa, and they live far from places where they can promptly update their registration details. Further, not only is the network hard to access in these areas, it is also quite erratic. Illiteracy is another confounding problem. Madam Speaker, it is my opinion that disconnecting these beneficiaries in the midst of humanitarian crisis that has been brought about by the drought situation amounts to a violation of their rights. I would therefore like to appeal to this Senate to prevail upon Safaricom and other telecommunication service providers to defer their deadline and to also consider having mobile registration centers to these pastoralist and ASAL areas in order to ensure compliance, so that humanitarian aid is not disrupted by the action of disconnecting these customers. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Nataka kusema ya kwamba niliyopitia mimi yanapitiwa na watu wengi.
Yes. What is your point of order, Senator Aaron?
Madam Speaker, just to confirm, I'm not certain about this, but I thought I saw a communication from the Communications Authority that they have extended the deadline for this registration by a further 60 days. Perhaps Senator Abdul could actually guide us, or with your guidance, if this has been done, then we may not need to dwell too much on this. I don't know, but I need your guidance, Madam Speaker.
Before we respond to that, I will request clerk to come. I will give two people to comment, two senators. Okay, then let me give 4 people. It's an issue of serious interest. 2 on this side and 2 senators on the minority side and the majority side, 2 senators. So, Senator Osotsi.
Mimi nitakapopata nafasi kama mmoja katika wizara na sheria inavyosema kwamba
Madam Speaker,
pia ni wasaidizi wa
this issue is of huge concern.
Basi mikakati hiyo mimi
CM may have been justified in trying to get the SIM details of all the subscribers. But the process undertaken by Safaricom in trying to get this data, Madam Speaker, is unlawful. I want to say this, Madam Speaker, because in the National Assembly, we passed a law called the Data Protection Act. And we established an office called the Data Commissioner's Office, who later came up with the regulations. Madam Speaker, I want to say that Safaricom has violated the internationally recognized data protection principles, which require that when you pick data from a data subject, you must get a proper consent before you pick that data. Madam Speaker, whereas I appreciate that Safaricom came up with an online form and even sent messages to subscribers with a link, that link was not functional. And hence, more subscribers went to their outlets, they gave their information, their ID details, without filling any form at all. And this is against the law, this is against the regulation, and this is against the international best practice on data protection. So, Mr. Speaker, they say data is the modern oil. Data is expensive. We have allowed our citizens to give their private national registration data to a private company, and we don't know what this data is going to do. There was no consent at all, because the consent is supposed to state the usage of that data clearly. That was not done. So, Madam Speaker, on that basis, I want to say that in the process of collecting this data, Safaricom has violated the data protection law, and I'm sure IT experts who are in this room will agree with me that this process was unlawful, regardless of the fact that it is necessary to get this data for other purposes like security. But they needed to state that purpose. Because today, if you allow a private company to get data, that is one way of promoting state capture. You do not know what that data will be used for. So on that basis, I think the particular committee that is going to deal with this, and I know is the ICT committee, they need to look at the issues of violation of the law, particularly the data protection law, and the data commissioner must be invited. The CA must be invited to explain to the committee why they oversaw violation of the data protection principles and the law and the regulation. That is the most important thing, regardless of the fact that Safaricom has extended the period. Yesterday I went to, they disconnected my line. I went to Safaricom and I asked them, is there any form I need to fill? They told me there is no form. They just picked my ID, scanned it, and reverted back my line. That is a thing that should not happen in this country. Especially when you are dealing with a private company and you are giving your national registration data to a private company. So, Mr. Speaker, I think in committing this matter to the committee, a committee must also be directed to look into the illegalities committed by the subscribers, Safaricom, of course, included.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senators, please take 2 minutes only to contribute. Thank you, Senator Osotsi, Senator Gloria. Next.
If you are successful nominee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. First of all, let me inform the House and the general public that there is no such thing as re-registration of SIM cards. It does not exist in any Communication Act, and no one should come out here and tell us about re-registration. If you look at the Communication Act of 2015 and SIM registration, they are only talking about registration of any SIM card holder, meaning at the point at which you are actually purchasing the SIM card, you registered. You will check that the guidelines that have been put there in our Communication Act is that you will provide information, full names, your ID, your alien card or your service card or your passport, date of birth, things like gender, and this information is actually classified as sensitive information. Sensitive information under the Communication Act actually it is guided on how data processors or data handlers should deal with it. Sensitive information is any information that puts out your sexual orientation, your gender, your genetic background and things like that. So whatever this SIM registration process that they're doing, and they're calling it re-registration, which in itself is an illegal act. It is only registration, meaning if you actually at any one point, which myself I did, gave my ID, my names and the details to procure a SIM card, nobody should come back to you and tell you we are re-registering, because nothing like that exists. When you check the process of what they are calling re-registration, they are asking for additional information, and they have not sensitized the public. And when I say they, the service providers, Safaricom and Airtel, have not sensitized the public on why they need this additional information. For instance, you are asked for your photographs. They are asking that you have to take a photo at one point when you're in Safaricom, you have to take your photo and put it in.
Madam Speaker, I rise on a point of order, standing order number 52, while appreciating the fact that Senator Haji has brought a very serious issue, understanding order 52. Madam Speaker, and some of us on Sunday, when I was supposed to pray, and I think my prayers were affected, the Safaricom decided to switch off my line. Looking at standing order 52.1, 52.3 on general statements, 3, the Speaker may, where appropriate, refer a statement made under paragraph 1 to the relevant committee for consideration. And therefore, Madam Speaker, looking that this matter is serious, and I know almost each and every member has an issue with it, I would request that now that the ICT committee has been formally formed, And looking at what Senate Majority Leader has just said, that is a communication from Commission Authority of Kenya on the extension period, so that some of these issues that senators are raising, Senator Gloria, Senator Utsotsi, can be looked at. Madam Speaker, I request your indulgence that this matter be referred, because it was a general statement and therefore there is no obligation. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Chirchir, while that is a very good contribution, I doubt if it's a point of order. I don't think it's a point of order. So I will allow Senator Gloria to wind up in 10 seconds, then we go to the third person.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll wind up by saying that, first of all, the process of re-registration does not exist. It is not in the legal framework. It is nowhere in the Communication Act 2015 and any other Communication Act. And actually, Madam Speaker, just to sensitize the House on what is happening is that there is a lot of data mining. I was talking about photographs. Nowadays, when you're tracking a person, you can actually get that Madam Speaker, Veronica Maina is seated there, and by additional information such as photographs, I can see all the people who are holding phones and how they look like, and it actually gives away information that should be protected, and it infringes on the privacy. On the issue of the data protection, which I know we will discuss on a later time, but Safaricom and Airtel, together with Communication Authority, because it is the authority that's supposed to guide them, they are actually infringing on the rights of people, and they should be stopped. And this re-registration, which is an illegal act, should actually be halted, and the service providers should be brought to book, because they have already breached on our privacy, and they should come and...
Thank you, Senator Gloria. Thank you. Senator Olekina.
Madam Speaker, I thank you. One of the things that I've noted is that I think we are being partial in prosecuting this matter. This is a matter that cuts across all the telecommunication providers. Safaricom, Airtel, and the other one is Telcom, and any other one which are hidden. So I think we should be impartial. And it is important, because when we keep on prosecuting one company, we are actually being very unfair to them. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, the second very important thing that I want to note here is that we have the Communication Authority, and I'm aware that they have extended the period of registration of SIM cards. What the committee ought to further investigate is, why is it that we now have a problem of pre-registration? Madam Speaker, when we were considering, I think, the data protection one of the things that I've noted, it is one... I think we are being partial. Okay, can I prosecuting this matter? This is a matter... Madam Speaker, if the distinguished senator is communicating to you, I'll be more than happy to be informed. Airtel, but it all... Telcom, and any other one, if you are hidden. So I think we should be... Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, so that I can be able not to interfere prosecuting...
Did you want to inform?
We are actually... Can I finish prosecuting?
Do you want to be informed?
Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, yes, why not? The second very important thing that I want to note here is that
very quickly,
I'd like to inform Senator Ledama that we are referencing Safaricom and Airtel, because when you look at the list of registered processors of data and controllers of data, it is limited to those that are in the list. And those who are switching off the lines, it is limited to Safaricom and Airtel. And that is the reason why I reference those two organizations. It has nothing to do with victimization. Just look at the list.
Madam Speaker, I'm very much aware of that. That was wrong, not really information, but it's okay. Because the distinguished senator is among the senators who contributed on this matter. And having spoken after her, I was not referring directly to her.
Do you want to be informed?
Mr. Speaker, yes, why not? The second very important thing that I want to note here is that
very quickly,
I'd like to inform Senator
statement from the distinguished senator Yusuf Haji, but I would also want to seek that the committee that is investigating this matter to be impartial when they are calling the witnesses, so that we need to ask ourselves tough questions. Are we in this parliament also responsible for this problem? Because the Communication Authority is acting under instructions from this parliament. So, Madam Speaker, the law is quite clear. The law requires that information be... 30 hours. Communication companies are violating the law, we should be made very clear. But this business of targeting one multinational corporation or one company, we should really stop away from that. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Olekina. I will request Senator Chirchir now to give his quick contribution, and then we close this matter. I will request Senator spoke on a point of order which I overruled, and then we close this. You spoke on a point of order which I overruled.
Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I think I'm on contribution.
Just allow him to speak. I have given him the chance.
On this matter, and I would have expected the minority leader to be up with what is happening on the House. Madam Speaker, 2 quick points. One, like any other Kenyans, unfortunately on Sunday, before going to pray, via FM, Mr. Speaker, when most of us do morning glory prayers, because it's a prayerful nation. The Safaricom, Madam Speaker, decided, Madam Speaker, to switch off many SIM cards, including a number of hustlers, including myself, Madam Speaker. And therefore agreed that we need Data Commissioner to come here, the Communication Authority of Kenya, because as my colleagues have said, the issue of data is very critical, Madam Speaker. And it is very unfortunate, Madam Speaker, and I agree that this matter is alive, even going to the future. So I hope, Madam Speaker, the Committee of ICT should come out strongly and ensure that this matter is put to rest. Lastly, Madam Speaker, is that in as much as, and I've heard the nominee, I think the nominee of Interior, our former colleague Senator Professor Kithure Kindiki, has indicated that some of this information that are being collected is for the interest and protection of the country and national security. While we appreciate, Madam Speaker, it is important also that we do it within the law, because we know that is where everybody wants to sell data. You are under threat, as somebody has said, wherever you are, Madam Speaker, and therefore I call upon that the Committee of ICT must cease of this matter, report back to the House so that Kenyans can be comfortable, Madam Speaker. A number of Kenyans, including saloonists, I saw in the news, that day they did not get clients. A number of even other clients that operate in mundane hours, Madam Speaker, were not able to be accessible, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, this matter should be handled carefully and with conclusion upon the direction as I had requested, understanding order 52.3, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is an important matter that is affecting all Kenyans and is affecting the communication that is being undertaken in the Republic of Kenya, and the mood of the House is that it should be committed to the Committee of ICT. So under Order 52.3 of the standing orders, we hereby commit this matter to the Committee of ICT to bring back a report to this House. Next statement, Senator Christo Asige.
Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Before I even start, I'd like to just say how proud and privileged I am to be standing in front of a Madam Speaker today. You sitting in that chair is not a small thing, and I feel very inspired to be in your presence today, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
I rise on Understanding Order 52.1 to make a statement about the just concluded World Sight Day, which was on the 13th of October 2022. Madam Speaker, everyone in the blind and visually impaired community knows that October is a very important month because it is Blindness Awareness Month. The world over, people this year have been going and celebrating and creating sensitization activities around Loving Your Eyes, which is this year's hashtag for Blindness Awareness Month. Madam Speaker, WHO estimates that there are 2.2 billion people around the world who suffer from some kind of visual impairment, and 1 billion of those live in LMICs, Kenya being one of them. Of those 2.2 billion as well, Madam Speaker, 1 billion are preventable issues, meaning that if they were addressed earlier enough, then they could have been prevented or reversed. Eye care. That's 15.5% of our population. And unfortunately, this is compounded with the fact that there are lack of ophthalmologists around the country. 58% of them are in this county of Nairobi, which means that the other counties, 46, are missing quality eye care with specialized doctors across board for ophthalmology. Madam Speaker, I'd like to just give a few tips to my colleagues and Kenyans who are listening to this on the importance of not ignoring symptoms when it comes to eye care. For example, dry eyes, headaches which are persisting. Do not ignore trends within your family of eye care, needing glasses in your family. Do not ignore sensitization efforts. Like right now, there is free eye screenings around the country going on through the month of October. One, I'm happy to report, happened right here in Senate with some of my friends and partners from the Ophthalmology Society of Kenya, and as well from City Eye Clinic, as well as Kenya Society for the Blind, amongst other in the consortium. I'm happy to say that the Senate now has joined 20 other parliaments around the world in promoting and prioritizing eye screenings right there on their grounds, which I'm very, very proud of. I would have liked to have made this statement last week on the day itself, on Thursday the 13th, but it's never too late to take care of your eyes, Madam Speaker. I encourage everyone in here, please, fellow senators, in your committees, especially committee chairs and vice chairs, if you see some senators who are struggling with their eyesight, give them a bit of reasonable accommodation and make sure that everyone is accommodated throughout their term so that everyone can serve in the best way possible. You don't want somebody to feel like they're being left out because documentation, trips, meetings are not made accessible for them if they are struggling with their eyesight. And continue, like me, to talk about this importance of loving your eyes. That's the hashtag this year, love your eyes. Please love your eyes, love your family's eyes, your children's eyes, enough to get them checked at least once a year. And not just at an optician, Madam Speaker, ophthalmologists, because not every single problem is solved by glasses, including my own. I have glaucoma, Madam Speaker, but glaucoma does not have me. And I'd like to end on that note and say, with your guidance, Madam Speaker, if this issue can be put forward to the relevant committee of health to look into the 4th phase of the strategic plan by the Ministry of Health and what they are planning to do for us in terms of quality eye care across the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Asige. That is very well spoken and very well presented. We are proud of you as Senate. Remember, your name is VIP. Asante sana. I will allow a few comments, just maybe one from this side and one from this side. One. Senator Okech Eddie Ishero.
communities, and 3, recommend intervention to alleviate the ongoing conflict. Madam Speaker, I arise pursuant to a standing order 53.1 to check a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding an arsonist attack which left 7 members of the family dead in Gemare, Ferenc, Yesese, Sublocation, Runyenjes constituency, Embu County. In the statement, the committee should apprise the Senate on the status of investigations into the incident.
There is a point of order by Senator Wambua.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Senator for Embu, I think he has proceeded to seek a second statement. I don't know whether that was supposed to happen, or he has to seek the permission of the chair to seek a second statement.
The second statement is actually listed, so it is okay for him to read it. Continue, Senator.
And there's a reason why I raised that issue, because I have a personal issue that I need to attend to, and I had asked to be allowed to make my statements that are listed, but I was told I could only do one statement. But if it's allowed to Senator Embu, then he's my neighbor, it's okay.
Senator, we have agreed that he will be the last to read his statements, and then we will postpone all the others, because we've spent more than 1 hour on the statements. Yes, yeah. Proceed and finalize, please, Senator. Proceed.
Madam Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53(1) to check a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding an arsonist attack which left 7 members of a family dead in Ngemare Village, Kisesa Sublocation, Runyenjes Constituency, Embu County. In the statement, the committee should 1. Apprise the Senate on the status of investigation into the incident that has left 7 families members dead, and 3. State the reasons for the inordinate delay by respective agencies in treating this matter with the agency it deserves, outlining the targeted intervention in strengthening security in the area and ensure the safety of residents of the county. Madam Speaker, I arise pursuant to Standing Order 53(1) to check a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations regarding the sale and consumption of illicit brews in the Chicago constituency, Embu County, that left 4 dead and several others losing their eyesight. In the statement, the committee should 1. Apprise the Senate on the status of investigations to bring to book perpetrators who sold illicit brew to innocent villagers in Chicago constituency, leaving 4 dead and several others losing their sight. 2. State targeted interventions to encourage commercial production of legalized traditional brews in order to cut off quick in the recreative industry. And 3. State measures to raise awareness on accessible and affordable traditional brews to discourage the making and selling of life-threatening brews, which has been going on across the country. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Senators, we will defer the remaining statements because we have spent a lot of time on this. Next order, please.
Order number 8, a motion, appointment of a joint select committee on election of members to the East African Legislative Assembly.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker,
acknowledging that the East African Legislative Assembly is established under Article 9 of the Treaty for Establishment of the East African Community as one of the key organs and institutions of a community responsible for the community's legislative matters. Recognizing that Article 50 of the treaty provides for the elections of members of EALA by representative partner states legislature in accordance with their parliamentary procedures for a term of 5 years. Further aware that the East African Legislative Assembly Elections Act 2011 contemplates conclusion of the election of members of a new assembly to be within 90 days before the expiry of the terms of the subsisting assembly, and noting that the term of the current East African Legislative Assembly will come to an end on the 17th of December 2022, cognizant of the need to urgently conclude the process for the East African Legislative Assembly to commence transacting business of the East African community. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Rule number 9 of the House of Parliament Joint Sitting Rules, the Senate resolves as follows. 1. To establish a joint select committee consisting of 7 members from each House of Parliament to undertake functions contemplated under the East African Legislative Assembly elections of members of the Assembly, Rules of 2017. 2. That the following members represent the Senate in the Joint Select Committee. Those are Senator Daniel Kitonga Maanzo, Senator Rafael Chimera, Senator Joyce Chepkoech Korir, Senator Miraj Abdullahi Abdul Rahman, Senator Chute Mohamed Said, Senator Joseph Githuku Kamau, Senator Beatrice Akinyi Oyomo. 3. That the offices of the clerks of the Houses of Parliament provides the Secretariat services to the Joint Committee in accordance with the standing orders, and that the Joint Committee reports to the House of a Parliament within the timeline stipulated in the East African Legislative Assembly election of the members of Assembly Rules 2017. Madam Speaker, this is a fairly straightforward matter. It's actually more of a procedural motion because we are just setting up a committee whose main duty, Madam Speaker, shall be to oversight or provide just guidance necessary that be needed from one time to the other for the technical team made up of representatives from both Houses of Parliament that will oversee this process of the election of members of Parliament to join the members of Parliament for East African Legislative Assembly. Madam Speaker, you are aware that Kenya is actually a founder state from amongst the other EAC communities together with Tanzania in the year 1999. I think this will be the fourth, if I'm not misguided, Madam Speaker, cohort of members of Parliament that we are sending to the Legislative Assembly. Each year at the beginning of a term, we do this, elect members of Parliament. People express their desire to join this House. It's largely a process driven by the political parties or the majority and minority side of both sides of the House, Madam Speaker. These members shall work actually in consultation with the leadership of both sides. You know very well, Madam Speaker, that as per our election rules, for each position that is available, we present, the parties or the sides of the House present 3 candidates. The total number of representation from Kenya is 9. So therefore the minority side will have their list of 12 candidates, and the side of the majority will have their list of 15 members. That is 3 for each of the 5 allocated slots that the majority side has in both sides of Parliament, Madam Speaker. Once the names have been gazetted, or rather listed, the members will campaign, and members of Parliament that are here are the voters for that matter. They'll move around, share their ideals, speak on why they think they deserve to represent Kenya in the East African Legislative Assembly. Then, Madam Speaker, we are finalizing the process of the dates, but as it is right now, the proposed date is elections to be held on the 17th of November 2022. We don't want the previous experience where this House, and perhaps Senator Oburu will know this, the Kenyan Parliament delayed the setting up of the Yala Assembly, because by statute you cannot set up the House until all the member states have sent their representatives. And due to a delay in our own internal procedures as Parliament, we ended up delaying the establishment actually of the House by quite a number of months. That's not good practice, that's not good neighborliness, that's not in the spirit of the East African community, the way we espouse and we think of each other. That's why this time we want to conclude this exercise way in advance, at least a month even before the lapse actually of the current assembly, Madam Speaker, so that our colleagues can begin familiarize themselves with Arusha and the rest of the regions, study and move on to represent the country at this very important assembly. It's an assembly of the future, Madam Speaker. If you listen to the speech of the President, you listen to him as well when he visited our two neighboring countries, that's Uganda and Tanzania, you can see that the future is EAC. On many things, on matters trade, matters communication, and so many things which our colleagues that we are sending to East African Legislative Assembly will be tasked with developing the necessary protocols, all the laws that are necessary, Madam Speaker, to have a stronger East African community and ensure that we succeed together as a region. Because when we do so, Madam Speaker, it gives us, we are strong actually together as a union, as opposed to being in the small fragments of nations that constitute the East African community. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I want to request that this is a straightforward matter. I'd request my colleague, the minority leader, to second. Maybe, I don't know, if there's a lot of interest for members, you can allow maybe one or two just to make a comment, because it's fairly procedural, fairly straightforward. We have proposed the Honorable Dan Mahanzo to be the chairperson of his team, given the fact that among us the list of the members of Parliament listed here, senators listed, he's the senior most. We have no qualms that he comes from the minority side, because we believe that he represents the interest of the Senate in this particular committee, together with our colleagues in the National Assembly. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I beg to move and request the leader of minority to second.
Asante Spika. Spika, kitu cha kwanza ni kwamba bunge letu la Afrika Mashariki linafika mwisho wake ama ukingoni ifikapo mwezi wa 12, na kunao muhimu ya kwamba hilo bunge likifika mwisho wa mwezi wa 12 tuwe tayari tumefanya mikakati ya kuona ya kwamba kunao Wakenya wengine ambao tutawachagua sisi wenyewe hapa ndani ya bunge ili waweze kutuwakilisha sisi katika lile bunge la Afrika Mashariki. Spika, kama unavyoelewa ni kwamba bunge la Afrika Mashariki ni bunge muhimu sana. Ni bunge ambalo linaweza kuleta mikakati ambayo sisi kama wananchi wa Afrika Mashariki tutashirikiana. Tukiona ya kwamba hivi sasa tuko Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Burundi, Rwanda, na hivi juzi tukapata kitinda mimba ambaye pia amekubali kuingia katika bunge la Afrika Mashariki, ambaye ni Sudan ya Kusini. Spika, itakuwa kiungo muhimu sana kwa sisi kama wa Kenya kuona kwamba ndugu zetu wa Sudan, Sudan ya Kusini wameingia katika ushirika huu na wameingia katika bunge la Afrika Mashariki. Na ndiyo sababu kwa umuhimu wao ikaonekana ingekuwa vyema michezo hii ambayo itafanywa na waheshimiwa ambao kila mwaka huwa inafanywa mwezi wa 12. Ni michezo ambayo wanasiasa ama wabunge wa bunge letu la kitaifa na bunge la Senate hujumuika pamoja, tukaenda kucheza michezo mbalimbali inaweza kusisimua misuli, na hata dada zetu pia wanaweza pia kujiunga, na kuna mambo ya mbio, kuna mambo ya kuvuta kamba. Kuna mambo mengi ambayo yanaendelea katika ushirikiano huo. Speaker, tukisema hivyo ni kwamba kunao muhimu kuweka kamati maalum ambayo inaweza kuangalia zile taratibu zimefuatiwa vyema, ili kuona ya kwamba wale ambao wanataka kupigania hivi viti, wale ambao wanataka kujihusisha ama kuweza kuchaguliwa ili kuweza kutuwakilisha sisi katika lile bunge la Afrika Mashariki, wameweza kupitia kwa kamati. Kwa hiyo kuna umuhimu wa sisi kama bunge la Senate kuweza kukaa chini na kuchagua maseneta ambao tunafikiria wana umuhimu sana katika ile kamati, ambao wataweza kuchunguza ni vipi na makadirio yao, taratibu zitakuwa namna gani, ili waweze kutuchagulia sisi watu ambao watakuwa kisawasawa kwenda katika ile bunge la Afrika Mashariki. Speaker, katika hiyo kamati tumesomewa majina, na katika yale majina Speaker, sisi tumeonelea kwamba wote ambao wamechaguliwa wanafaa kabisa katika zile nyadhifa. Wote ambao wamechaguliwa pia wanao uwezo wa kuweza kutuwakilisha sisi kama bunge katika ile kamati ndogo itakayochunguza. Kwa hiyo Speaker, nina imani ya kwamba yule aliyechaguliwa kama mwenyekiti ambaye ni wakili aliyebobea, ndugu yetu Seneta Manzo, seneta wa Makueni, ni kwamba anao tajriba ya kuifanya ile kazi. Pia vile vile amekuwa pia akijihusisha sana na hata katika koti ile ya Afrika Mashariki. Amekuwa huko na amekuwa akifanya hizi kazi zingine zinahusiana na bunge letu la Afrika Mashariki, na katika ile hali ni kwamba tumeona yeye ana tajriba ama ana experience ya juu sana, na tukiona kwamba ni uchaguzi ule utakaokuwa tutaangalia katika hali makaratasi ya wale ambao watakuwa wana haja kusimama katika hivi vyeo, yeye ameweza kukadiria na kufika kile kiwango. Speaker, tukiwa tunatakia kila laheri katika kazi hii ambao watatuwakilisha sisi kama bunge la Senate, tuna imani ya kwamba kazi wanaijua na wataifanya, na niko na imani na maseneta hawa wote ambao tumeweza kuwaweka hapo, na mimi nataka kuunga mkono yote aliyosema ndugu yangu kiongozi wa walio wengi. Asante Speaker.
Honorable Speakers, Senators, I propose the question that acknowledging that the East African Legislative Assembly, EALA, is established under Article 9 of the Treaty for the Establishment of the East African Community as one of the key organs and institutions of the community responsible for communities' legislative matters, recognizing that Article 50 of the treaty provides for the election of members of EALA by respective partner states' legislatures in accordance with their parliamentary procedures for a term of 5 years, further aware that the East African Legislative Assembly Elections Act 2011 contemplates conclusion of the election of members of the new assembly to be within 90 days before the expiry of the term of the subsisting assembly. Noting that the term of the current East African Legislative Assembly will come to an end on 17th December 2022, cognizant of the need to urgently conclude the election process for the East African Legislative Assembly to commence transacting business of the East African community. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 9 of the House of Parliament Joint Sittings Rules, the Senate resolves to establish a joint committee consisting of 7 members from each of the House of Parliament to undertake the functions contemplated under the East African Legislative Assembly elections, elections of members of the Assembly Rules 2017, that the following members represent the Senate in the Joint Select Committee. Number 1, Senator Daniel Kitonga Maanzo, co-chair. Senator Raphael Chimera Mwinzangu. 3, Senator Joyce Chepkoech Korir. 4, Senator Miraj Abdullahi Abdurrahman. 5, Senator Chute Mohammed Said. 6, Senator Joseph Githuku Kamau. And 7, Senator Beatrice Akinyi Oyomo. That the offices of the clerks of Houses of Parliament provide secretariat services to the Joint Committee in accordance with the standing orders, and that the Joint Committee report to the Houses of Parliament within the timelines stipulated in the East African Legislative Assembly election of members of the Assembly Rules 2017. Members, I suggest that we give 2 chances on either side. Okay. I've been requested to give 1-1. So, Senator Oburu, because you are a current member of YALA, we'll give you a chance.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is a very, very important motion. It is an important motion because it has been worrying me, Madam Speaker, but nonetheless, the reason why it has been delayed in the Kenyan Parliament is because of the elections. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, all the countries of East Africa have already concluded the process of electing members to YALA, except the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. DRC, it is because it is a new member, and now the East African community is going to have 7 members. We have been having 6 members, and the 6 members appoint 9 members from each state. And that means 9 times 6 is 54. The membership of YALA has been 54. The Southern Sudan has already concluded their elections just last week. Uganda have already concluded theirs. And Rwanda and Burundi the same, and even Tanzania. So, Madam Speaker, this is an urgent matter which should be concluded as soon as possible, because as you could see, the treaty says the elections should be concluded 90 days to the end of the term. And the term of the current Parliament ends on the 17th of December. Madam Speaker, the issue of integration is something we cannot gainsay, because, Madam Speaker, the importance of integrating our economies is the way to grow our countries, our economies. Madam Speaker, when we are a small market, we cannot expand our economies. And Madam Speaker, it is important that the four pillars of the community are followed and they are implemented as urgently as possible. Madam Speaker, the 4 pillars are the customs union, which is already fully implemented. The second pillar is the common market, Madam Speaker, which is in advanced implementation stage, but it is implemented through protocols, and the countries delay in implementing protocols because of their personal or their national interest, which sometimes prohibits or slows integration process. Madam Speaker, the third pillar is the pillar of monetary union, which is also at an advanced stage. An institute has already been established, and it is going to be, the central bank is going to be here in Nairobi. And Madam Speaker, the last one is the political they call it confederation. It was originally federation, but now it has been reduced because of selfishness in terms of releasing sovereignty. There are people who want to retain more sovereignty. That is why it is removed from federation to confederation. And that is also at an advanced stage of negotiations. And Madam Speaker, these are very, very important. This is a very important stage, and we are expanding. The community is expanding now. The joining of the DRC is a very, very important step, because it is expanding our area of economic interest, and DRC is a very rich country in terms of natural resources. It's a big market for our country. Madam Speaker, I therefore just want to add to support this process and wish those who are doing the selection. Well, the last time when we were elected, Madam Speaker, each position, there are 9 positions. The majority took 5 positions. The minority took 4 positions. And for elections to take place, each position attracts 3. So each party recommends 3. So if you have 4 positions, you recommend 12. If you have 5 positions, you recommend 15. So that Parliament can elect and vote on those 15 plus 12 is 27. So Parliament votes on the 27, and you select 9 out of the 27. So it is an election. It is very tough. I know members are from elections where in our place it was called Jamna. People were asking you to shake something called Jamna. So you cough out something, and members have coughed out quite a lot. And please don't overtax those who want to be members of IALA, but be fair to them and select the best people to represent our interest in the community. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I want to end my speech there. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity.
Senator Mungatana, 2 minutes only.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I'm going to say only one point and say it very briefly. Madam Speaker, I want to congratulate Senator who has just spoken before me, our senior in this House, for the time that he has spent in IALA. Madam Speaker, the point I wanted to make is that IALA has been a big disappointment. Big disappointment, not only to Kenya, but to the rest of East Africa community. Mr. Speaker, those who are going to be chosen this time round, it is my prayer that they will not be like the past legislators who have gone there and we never hear about them again. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, the only time we hear about IALA and the East African community is when we hear the executive arm of governments, of those governments, meeting in Nairobi or Arusha or some other place. We never just get to hear about the East African legislator. And I just wonder why. Here in Kenya, Madam Speaker, we are always hearing what Parliament and Senate is saying, the National Assembly and Senate. But, and then we also hear from the executive. Madam Speaker, the IALA, it is like, you know, people just go there and they disappear. We never hear from them. We don't know their session. The last time we heard from them is when they had this circle movement and they came to Kenya for a few minutes, for a few days, and then they disappear. We don't hear motions. We don't hear anything. So my appeal is that those who are going to be selected this time round, don't let us down. Don't go there and kill East Africa. Don't go there and let us think that East African community is a community of heads of state. Let us hear debates. Let us hear our views being expressed by you people there. Let us hear motions being moved, some decisions being made through popular vote. We want to see a vibrant East African parliament. Don't go there and just pass some 5 years, then, blah, 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 create some CV. Madam Speaker, let us see something. Let us see a difference. That is what I wished to say. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. I think now I'll call upon the mover to reply.
Responded to this motion and spoken on behalf of colleague senators. Have taken keen interest actually in the contributions of both of them, both North and South, in terms of agreement on what IALA has been able to achieve. I see Senator Oburu being a member who has served there, very optimistic about what we can achieve as an East African community through the works of IALA, the statutes, and the four main pillars. We have benefited from your wisdom, Senator. I hear also the concerns of my colleague, Senator Danson Mungatana, but I think while I agree with him largely that there is a need to push IALA to be more firm with its determination, until you are able, all the 7 partner states are able to sign on the statute that Senator Oburu Oginga referred to, then I'm afraid, Senator Mungatana, we will not be able to achieve what you're looking for. Because as it is, so long as the resolutions of IALA end up being resolutions urging partner states to do this, urging partner states. You remember in 2013, for example, one of the 4 pillars, the monetary union, was signed into action. But IALA, given that we have not yet ceded our sovereignty as a union to this legislative assembly, then it becomes difficult for us to achieve real and actual integration. Many of the resolutions will end up being statements of urging the partner states to do the following, and has to go to the Bureau of Ministers. Then we wait for the annual Heads of State Summit. If there is no goodwill on even one out of the 7, then it forestalls the entire process. So I want to believe maybe as we continue to integrate and speak to the rest of our colleagues in the region, it's upon us to help them understand and appreciate why signing on to the 4th pillar, making IALA a proper parliament whose decisions will be equivalent to the decisions of the partner states, and that will have the full force of law, it is going to be a completely difficult situation for us to expect that we shall achieve all the objectives of EAC. But there's a lot to be enjoyed at this particular point, many things. At least we have, we celebrate little gains, like just having an EAC, the common passport for the region, with the joining of Democratic Republic of Congo. I want to believe that them having signed on all the necessary protocols, with my passport, I can cross over to Kinshasa the way I do when I'm headed to Chirchir, Mr. Speaker. That's something little to celebrate about. Of course, I looked forward to a time where we'll be able to achieve more, as Senator Mungatana has said. Therefore, I agree with our colleagues that we shall expedite this process. I want to urge the 7 senators, Senator Maanzo, that you must lead your team tomorrow into sitting down with your colleagues in the National Assembly. They already passed their team of 7 last week. So you must have your meeting tomorrow first thing in the morning and begin on this work, because we want to conclude on this exercise by the 17th of November. Members can vote. The reason why we have to do it by 17th of November is that, remember, from the 20th of November, many members are likely to head out of the country for the East African Legislative Assembly Games. You don't want half the house outside when you're doing such an important exercise. Therefore, you don't have time. Time is not on your side. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Pursuant to Standing Order number 84-2, I wish to make a determination that this matter does not affect counties. I'd like to put the question that acknowledging that East Africa Legislative Assembly, EALA, is established under Article 9 of the Treaty of the Establishment of the East African Community as one of the key organs and institutions of the community responsible for community legislative matters, recognizing that Article 50 of the treaty provides for the election of members of EALA by respective partner states' legislatures in accordance with their parliamentary procedures for a term of 5 years. Further aware that the East African Legislative Assembly Elections Act 2011 contemplates conclusions of the elections of members of the new assembly to be within 90 days before the expiry of the term of the subsisting assembly, noting that the term of the current East African Legislative Assembly will come to an end on 17th December 2012, cognizance of the need to urgently conclude the election process of the East African Legislative Assembly to commence transacting business of the East African Community. Now, therefore, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 9 of the House of Parliament, joint sittings, rules that the Senate resolves, 1, to establish a joint select committee consisting of 7 members from each House of Parliament to undertake the functions contemplated under the East African Legislative Assembly election of members of the Assembly Rules 2017. 6, that the following members represent the Senate in the Joint Select Committee. Number 1, Daniel Kitonga Maanzo as co-chair. Number 2, Senator Raphael Chimera Mwinzangu. Number 3, Joyce Chepkoech Korir. Number 4, Senator Miraj Abdullahi Abdulrahman. Number 5, Senator Chute Mohamed Said. Number 6, Senator Joseph Githuku Kamau. And number 7, Senator Beatrice Akinyi Oyomo. Number 7, that the offices of the clerks of houses of parliament provide secretariat services to the joint committee in accordance with the standing orders. And number 8, that the joint committee report to the houses of parliament within the timeline stipulated in the East African Legislative Assembly election of members of the Assembly Rules 2017. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, motion, approval of senators to serve in the County Public Accounts Committee, County Public Investments and Special Funds Committee, and the Committee on Delegated Legislation.
Madam Speaker, I am moving this motion in an amended form because there were changes since we last moved the notice of motion. Therefore, pursuant to Standing Order number 193, 194, 195, and 199, the Senate approves the following senators nominated by the Senate Business Committee to serve in the select committees of the Senate as follows. A, County Public Accounts Committee. The following senators: Samson Kiprotich Cherargei, John Methu, Mariam Sheikh, Mwenda Gataya, Moses Otieno Kajwang, Fatuma Aden Dulo, Richard Moimoma Onyonka, Edwin Watenya Sifuna, and Andrew Omtata Okoiti. B, County Public Investments and Special Funds Committee. The following senators, 9 of them: Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen, Paul Karungo Dhangwa, Maureen Tabitha Mutinda, Miraj Abdullahi Abdul Rahman, Eddie Gisheru Okech, Ledama Olekina, Hamida Kibwana, Professor Tom Ojenda, and Godri Atieno Osotsi. C, the Committee on Delegated Legislation, the following 9 senators. Number 1, Mwenda Gataya Mofaya, Danson Buya Mugatana, Gloria Magoma Oroba, Joyce Chepkoech Korir, Julius Murgorecha, Daniel Kitonga Maanzo, Bernard Faki Munyehaji, Betty Batuli Montet, and lastly, Senator Agnes Kavindu Mudhama. Mr. Speaker, this should bring to a close the setting up of our committees of parliament. We began this exercise last week. Madam Speaker, this should bring to a close the business, actually, of setting up the various committees of parliament. We began this work last week on Thursday. We were not able to conclude because of the debate and many members that wanted to speak, actually, that particular time. In fact, I do recall, and I owe, I think, one to Professor Ojenda, and I think it was Eddie or somebody else, that I gave a promise that when we resume today, Madam Speaker, I don't have such powers, but I promise them anyway that I will be their advocate in ensuring that they get the opportunity to make comments on how the committees have been set up generally. Because you remember, we were running short of time, and they were magnanimous enough to agree to drop out from their request to speak at that particular time, so that they be given the opportunity today to give their comments and general feelings about how the Senate Business Committee has set up the various committees of Parliament. Madam Speaker, we did 14 standing committees. Today we are doing the sessional committees, 3 of them, Madam Speaker, picked senators with different diverse backgrounds, different giftings, people who understand. There are very many attributes that you can say about each of the senators that has been carefully selected to serve in each of these 3 committees, Madam Speaker. I believe the men and women that have been picked here have got what it takes actually to serve this House, ensure that we achieve that which was intended by the drafters of our Constitution, Madam Speaker. Particularly, Madam Speaker, the County Public Accounts Committee. You know, this is a very important committee, Madam Speaker, and I want to urge colleague senators, I will not hide my feelings about it, because on many occasions I hold the radical view that, Madam Speaker, and I don't say this to say that I disagree with the formation of this particular committee. I support 100%. That's why I gave the notice of motion. That's why I'm urging colleague senators to vote for it. But my thinking on Public Accounts Committee, even from last Senate and the one that was there before, is that it ought to be a committee actually of all the 47 delegations, Madam Speaker, because that's the only way you can be able to earn the respect of your county government, so that when you voice out certain issues, your voice will be taken seriously. You know, what colleague senators are about to discover is that if you find yourself in the unfortunate situation, say like Senator Ojenda, good Senator Sifuna, where you have county governments that are headed by former senators. They understand the strength and the limitations of Senate. Sometimes you try to do your work so diligently, but because they have been here and they know the length through which this House can reach, sometimes your voice is ignored. And therefore, how do you make senators respected and make their voice be a voice of authority in the county assembly? You can only achieve that, Madam Speaker, by ensuring that you have a committee where at least once every financial year, your governor appears before you with maybe 4, 5, or 6 of your colleagues from different counties, and they answer for how they have appropriated and used the public funds that you have devolved to the various counties, Madam Speaker. Because you don't get that particular chance, and I have seen this from experience. I'm saddened to say this is a fact that we'll see perhaps, and I pray that it doesn't happen in this particular county, this particular session of a County Public Accounts Committee, Madam Speaker. You go before public accounts and you find that your governor, because you know, this is a political world, some of them have been senators before, they have friends, they have family, and you find that your own colleague senators actually gang up against you as you try to raise issues that concern the people that you represent in this particular House. You know, Madam Speaker, last Senate, when we went to Kitui during the Senate Mashinani program, and we invited the 3 neighboring counties, at the time I discovered how much county governments fear being grilled being grilled before members of the public, especially in their own locality. Because my thinking was that if you were to form such a committee, they would not even need to hold their sittings here in Nairobi. You go and hold your sittings in Kisumu, in Busia, in Kericho, in Nyamira, in all our various counties, and have your governor come and answer to questions. You know, because you understand all the tricks, many of the challenges that are brought out by the auditors cannot be there is no better auditor, Madam Speaker, than the public themselves. It is them who know if a dispensary has been put up or not. It is them who know the old trick, for example, Madam Speaker, when a county governments put up a road and capture it as point A to point B, and for the purpose of pilfering funds, they again list the same roads as being mentioned from point B to A. An auditor is not able to pick such games. But if you held your public sittings back in your counties, Madam Speaker, and invite maybe 50 to 100 carefully selected members of the public to come and see their governor, appear before their senator, and answer to questions, Madam Speaker, then I believe when a senator speaks in public and says that I don't agree with a certain decision, the executive of that particular county, the county assembly, will respect what the senator is saying. And I say this because when we went to Kitui, Madam Speaker, we invited the governor for Kitui, we invited the governor for Machakos, we invited the governor for Makueni. I tell you, Madam Speaker, not a single one of them turned up. Actually, they mobilized goons to disrupt that particular sitting of the Senate. Why were they doing that? Because nobody wants to be questioned in the presence of the people that elected them. And that is which we can achieve. Because unfortunately, this present system as currently constituted, I think it's flawed. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, I am saying this while moving a motion actually for setup of a particular committee. But I say this to say the following to our colleague, the 9 senators that have been charged with the responsibility of leading this particular committee and looking into the books of account of our county assemblies and special funds and the executive of the 47 county governments, Madam Speaker, that you are doing this very important task on behalf of all Kenyans and on behalf of your colleagues. Please treat it as a position of trust. Treat it as a position of honor, Madam Speaker, that for every assignment and duty that you're taking, ensure that you keep the dignity of this house held in such high regard. Let us not be reduced to a laughing stock. I'm afraid to say this, Madam Speaker, but on many occasions, given how the Public Accounts Committee sometimes have been led under different leadership over the years, Madam Speaker, we have become a laughing stock and a discussion in the Council of Governors, where governors even consult for free and advise each other and say, oh, you have a session, you're appearing tomorrow. I can help you with a number, which if you call, tomorrow you'll have a more favorable appearance. We don't want to hear such stories, Madam Speaker. We want people to be held to account. We want our colleagues who will serve in this particular committee to be people of honor, so that if a county governor has been found to have had their hand actually in the county cookie jar, let them be exposed, let citizens of that particular county know the truth. The Committee on Delegated Legislation, for example, Madam Speaker, a very important committee. I know for a fact that this administration intends to bring no less than 50 regulations before this House for them to look through and agree whether those regulations are in conformity with our Constitution, in conformity with the various statutes and acts of Parliament that have been passed. The work of the Delegated Legislation Committee is clearly cut out for them. I expect that they'll do the same also with a lot of dignity and honor, ensure that the executive doesn't bring regulations that claw back the gains of devolution, that on many occasions these regulations actually respect the letter and the spirit of devolved county units, that we ensure that actually for once and for all, we no longer hear about this animal called ICGTRC, you know, the Intergovernmental Committee on Transfer, you know, of assets. How do you explain, Madam Speaker, that 12 years after actually the setup of the first county governments in 2013, Madam Speaker, you still have functions that haven't been transferred, you still have assets that are yet to be properly registered, you still have disputes that are arising between national and county executive. The Delegated Legislation Committee needs to settle some of this with great finality, so that we have citizens of this country able to enjoy on the gains of devolution and build on it. Madam Speaker, lastly, I say this respectfully to all our colleagues. It is not possible to have all the 47 of us in one committee. I know people have different opinions about, you know, when I've interacted with many of the first-time senators, you hear them say, I want to be in a certain committee. I hear is most prestigious. I don't know. For the terms of parliament that I have served in this house, Mr. Speaker, I have never met the manual, imagined or real, of which committee ranks higher to the other. I remember, Madam Speaker, with a lot of nostalgia, I wish Senator Moses Otieno Kajwang was here. When we had changes because of the political situations that were in this country, the last parliament, and some of us were removed from committees that we were serving in, I was taken to the Committee on Devolution, a committee which was not in many ways regarded to as being, you know, as prestigious as the rest. But under the good stewardship of Senator Moses Otieno Kajwang, I do not recall a time where I enjoyed serving in a parliamentary committee as I did on that particular occasion, Madam Speaker. We had great media attention to the work that we were doing. We were able to put many county governments that were using the route of using clients' accounting law firms, you know, to pilferage public funds. We brought them here. We were able to do legislation. Transfer of functions is something that we considered. We mediated disputes between county assemblies and the executive. We did a lot of work. Therefore, I say to all our colleagues, there is no committee that is superior to the other. It is not a committee that makes the man. It is actually the man that makes the committee. You can serve in any particular committee so long as you are dedicated, you have the energy, and you have the belief that you are doing the right thing in being in this house, then you'll be able to achieve the objective that that the people of Kenya have granted by allowing you to be in this august house, Madam Speaker. I don't intend to be longer than that because I know many colleagues, senators, want to speak on this very important task. Therefore, I want to rest it at that. I beg to move, Madam Speaker, and invite my good friend, the Senator for Narok, Senator Ledama Olekina, to second this motion. Thank you.
Senator Ledama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to second this motion of the consideration of senators to serve in these three very, very important committees. Madam Speaker, from the onset, if you look at the order paper today, I dare say if you look at all the order papers that we have considered since we started the term of this parliament, you will notice that the papers that have been laid revolves around two committees that we are considering members of the Senate to serve in those committees. The order paper today, Madam Speaker, the first paper laid out is the report of the Auditor General on the financial statement for Narok County Executive for the year ended June 30th. The fourth one, Madam Speaker, is on the report of the Auditor General on the financial statement for Narok County Bursary Fund. Those two statements, Madam Speaker, falls under the Public Accounts Committee. But when you go further down, you will find statements, or rather you'll find papers that falls under PIC, or Public Investment Committee. So, Madam Speaker, the sooner we dispense this matter and constitute these committees, the earlier it will.
Sasa tupange mambo ya wananchi ya kwenda mbele. And we are going to work together in that.
5. They are quite clear on the mandate of each of those committees. But as Speaker, the biggest challenge that we encountered during the last parliament, and I served as a member of the Public Accounts Investment Committee, and then before these two committees were split, it was tedious. A governor would appear, would sit for 6 hours, and will only be able to prosecute 2 issues, or rather 2 questions. I want to echo the sentiments of my colleague, the majority leader, that those senators, distinguished senators, who have been tasked with the mandate to be able to oversight the county governments, that mandate is very, very clear. Because it calls for you as a person to be able to respect the principle of the fiduciary duty. You are tasked with the fiduciary duty to ensure that with the work that you are doing there is to be able to continue gaining respect from the members of the public who elected you to come and serve here. Madam Speaker, these are committees that require people who will be able to commit their time, to commit their sweat, to commit their blood in making sure that we can be able to call for accountability among the 47 counties. I heard my colleagues talk about that maybe this is a committee that all 47 delegations should be represented, and I dare say all the 47 delegations are actually represented, because when a governor is appearing before that committee, as a senator from that county, you have the right to be there, you have the right to be able to question. So I think we should not be all of us wanting to serve in that committee, because only 9 of us can be able to fit in. From the minority side, 5 members. From the majority side, 4 members. So I want to really reiterate and plead with all the members that we should approve these members so that we can start working. On the issue of the delegated legislation, we have seen the work which was done by the distinguished senator from Mombasa. When we had these government instruments, the statutory regulations being brought before this house, a lot of them, if it wasn't for the work which was done by Senator Haji, a lot of them would have been considered unconstitutional. So the mandate is quite clear. And I invite senators to go back and look at Standing Order number 193, 194, and 195, so that they can be able to understand their mandate. The other issue, Madam Speaker, is that these are committees that can be able to be reconstituted at any given time. I know the Standing Orders called for about a period of 3 years, but nothing stops us, as we've been given that power by Standing Order number 200 to be able to make these changes and be able to bring other people who can be able to help. I know for a fact that when I served as a member of the, by then it was called Public Accounts and Investment Committee, every single day, all 9 members were present. Now, it has been divided into 2. I don't see why we cannot be able to complete the work. We ended up becoming, what do you call it, when you have to look at something that has already happened. You know, what's the word? Huh? The work is more like you become a mortician. That's the word. You become a mortician. But, Madam Speaker, nothing stops the leadership of those 2 committees from taking on an active matter, suo motu, and investigating that matter. Nothing stops. In fact, this is a big argument that I had with the clerk's office on a statement which we are bringing on this floor, when I was told that that statement can only go to a particular committee, because one of these select committees, we do not have a tradition of bringing statements. Madam Speaker, I want to challenge that, because when you look at the mandate of the Committee on Public Accounts and Investment, if you read Standing Order 193, 193.1d, it says that the mandate is to exercise oversight over county public accounts. There is nowhere in that mandate that says that we have to do a post-mortem exercise, that we have to wait for the Auditor General to carry out investigation and submit following the process of the Public Audit Act. So, Madam Speaker, I'd like to challenge all distinguished members who are sitting here that whenever we have an issue to be able to carry out, we do so diligently. And I believe that all the names of all the distinguished senators who have been proposed to serve in these 2 committees and these 3 committees are people who are able to deliver justice and to call for a fiduciary responsibility among the 47 counties. So, Madam Speaker, as I summarize, I hope that this is maybe a matter that we can be able to conclude, so that we can clear all the papers that have been laid on the floor of this house, on the table of this house, and allow county governments to be able to catch up, because there's a lot happening in county government, Madam Speaker. And if we are not the true ombudspersons of our citizens, then we will be lying not only to ourselves, but to the Almighty God who has sent us to ensure that we deliver on the mandate that we were elected, which is clearly described under Article 196 of the Constitution. Madam Speaker, I support, and I hope that all the members will support.
Thank you. Honorable Senators, I propose the question that pursuant to Standing Order numbers 193, 194, 195, and 199, the Senate approves the following senators nominated by the Senate Business Committee to serve in select committees of the Senate as follows. A, County Public Accounts Committee. Senator Samson Kiprotich Cherarkei, Senator John Mohia Methu, Senator Mariam Sheikh Omar, Senator Mwenda Gataya Mofire, Senator Moses Otieno Kajwang, Senator Fatuma Aden Dulo, Senator Richard Momoima Onyonka, Senator Edwin Watenya Sifuna, and Senator Andrew Omtata Okoiti. B, County Public Investments and Special Funds Committee. Senator Onesmus I think this is Senator Murkomen cannot serve on that. Okay, Senator Onesmus Kipchumba Murkomen, Senator Paul Karungo Thangwa, Senator Maureen Tabitha Mutinda, Senator Miraj Abdullahi Abdurrahman, Senator Eddie Gisheru Okech, Senator Ledama Olekina, Senator Hamida Kibwana, Senator Professor Tom Odhiambo Ojienda, Senator Godfrey Atieno Osoti. Committee on Delegated Legislation, Senator Mwenda Gataya Mofire, Senator, is it Mofire? Senator Danson Buya Mungatana, Senator Gloria Magoma Orwoba, Senator Joyce Chepkoech Korir, Senator Julius Murgor Recha, Senator Daniel Kitonga Maanzo, Senator Mohamed Faki Mwinyihaji, Senator Betty Batuli Montet, and Senator Agnes Kavindu Mutama. I now invite members to make their contributions, beginning with Senator Osoti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and congratulations for being our chair today. Madam Speaker, I don't have really much to say, but I just want to emphasize that the three committees are very crucial in our work for oversight, particularly the County Public Accounts Committee and the County Public Investment and Special Fund Committee, which really are the two committees that oversight the financial status of our counties. So I want to encourage the members who will sit on the two committees to put in a lot more effort in trying to help this country and Senate on matters of transparency and accountability in our counties. Madam Speaker, we have a lot of challenges on matters to do with financial transparency in counties. We see a lot of wastage, we see a lot of theft of public funds, and these are happening in our various counties. So this committee should really help Senate to come up with actionable reports so that the culprits who are involved in all this theft should be brought forward and punished. So, Madam Speaker, my expectation, and I'm happy I'm a member of PIC, I'll exercise my time there and my experience to ensure that we produce reports that are actionable. Madam Speaker, we have been blamed as Parliament, not just Senate alone, even National Assembly, that
but by design,
we give reports which are not actioned. And looking at the standing orders of the Senate, each committee has the powers to follow up on the implementation of its own resolution. So I expect every committee, including these two that we are passing, 3 that we are passing today, to ensure that whatever recommendation they give are implemented fully. Because in Senate, unlike the National Assembly, we don't have an implementation committee. So each committee handles matters to do with implementation. So members of each committee, that either standing committee or oversight committee, you don't just write reports. You make sure that the resolutions emanating from those reports are fully implemented. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I also want to express my interest to become the chair of the County Public Investment Committee. Madam Chair, I was a vice chair of a similar committee in National Assembly, and I think the experiences are the same, and I think I will play a big role in performing competently and effectively the role of the chair of the County Public Investment and Special Funds Committee. For those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I support.
Jambo la pili inatupatia nafasi katika sehemu hii, na jambo la tatu vile vile inatupatia nafasi ya kuondoa changamoto katika sehemu zetu za kilimo, ili tuanze ile program ya land consolidation, watu tuweze kupata nafasi ya kilimo, program ya land consolidation. Watu tuweze kupata nafasi ya kilimo, ili tutumie sehemu zetu za kilimo kuzalisha chakula kama sehemu ya makao.
It has been a magnificent World Cup, won by a worthy goal in the marvelous city of Rio. Thank you, Brazil. Danke.
The world's biggest sporting event is here with us. The FIFA World Cup 2022 in Qatar. KBC Television will air live 28 selected matches, while radio will beam live all the 64 matches. We would like to bring to the attention of the public that KBC is the only station that has exclusive 2022 FIFA World Cup free-to-air FTA broadcast rights for both TV and radio in the Kenya territory, and no other media outlet. Therefore, catch all the FIFA World Cup action live and exclusive on KBC TV and radio. KBC is indeed your true sports partner.
Wanasema samaki apige reverse, lakini sio kwa dingo.
Pipi, mbona wazunguka ushakunywa chai?
Bado lakini
hapana, njoo unywe chai.
Tangu lini tukaanza na komba meza moja?
Nadhani itakuwa vema zaidi hizi pesa tuziongeze.
Hii hapa hii imelaniwa.
Babangu akipaondoka hapa kutatulia.
The only reason why I'm here is because I need peace in my house.
Usile nyama pekee, usile mboga pekee. Bajeti kikubali ongeza sembe. Usijinyime brother, usijinyime. Cause you work so hard. So when you sip, take your water, check your drip. You receive what you give so many necessary sins. Too much of anything is poisonous. You set your life become monotonous. Nobody has a bigger voice than us. Na. So balance.
That he has consulted enough so that he does not come back and cry here. Mr. Speaker, sir, Madam Speaker, as I rise to support this motion, I have been, I've attended every session of this chamber, and there are very many papers that have been laid to the table of the clerk by the leader majority every time we come here, and I'm told that they're going to the Public Accounts Committee and some to the Public Investment Committee. So those are very busy committees of this House. I'm not saying that there is any committee that is not busy, but I am certain that those are two very busy committees. I'm looking forward to learning from those who are coming in as very experienced. I'm also looking forward to committing my time to serve in ensuring one of the responsibilities of this Senate is oversight. We are supposed to take care of the funds that are devolved. The funds that we are fighting that they are added, we have to ensure that we take very good care of them, so that we do not have granary and then it does not have a door. All the resources will be stolen. So, Madam Speaker, I support this motion. I ask that my colleagues who will be serving in these committees commit their time. I am very happy that Senator Adama is saying that for the time that he served, all the 9 members were active. I'm hopeful that all the 9 members of the 3 committees will be active. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Tom Ojenda.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the motion on the committees. I'd intended to speak before, but I was not able to speak, Madam Speaker, because of the time. I think that then my learned friend, Senator Okongo Mogendi Nyamira then spoke in what has now become a pointer to how there was non-consultation and selection of committees, I think from this side. But I think that we are on course to settle that question so that Mr. Matthew and his side should not celebrate too much. I think we are putting our house in order. And and I can assure that side that we will have an organized side that will oppose or that will render formidable opposition to the government side. Madam Speaker, on the PIC, I serve in 2 committees, the Public Investment Committee and the National Security Committee. And I think, Madam Speaker, there's already too much work for those 2 committees. We know that we must hold our governors to account. We must expect of them to live by the book and to serve the people of the countries that we come from. And I think that, as Senator Odedama said, the oversight that we must undertake as a House should not be the oversight where members are called and told to do things according to script. We must hold accounting officers in the counties. We must hold governors to account. We must summon where they are questioned.
That monopoly has been opened up, and we'll just need to see how to implement the off-grid very carefully. how we ensure that we don't incur power losses because of long transmission and building lines into remote areas where we can do off-grid. And so the monopoly is not going to be a challenge going forward because the Act has addressed that. Thank you.
There is one final question. Kenya Power is a monopoly. It has no competitor, apart from now the few isolated solar panels here and there that are grossly insignificant to their overall performance. Why are they constantly in financial difficulties? They sell a commodity that you and I cannot do without. When you default, they come and disconnect you on the pole, literally extorting your payback and reconnection. Why are they having financial difficulties?
Yeah, it's a dollar question, Chairman, that we all need to look at, because when you are a monopoly, and like I said in one of my term papers, we need to look at when the market is locked for you, you tend to be complacent. The investment today that is needed to strengthen the Kenya Power network could be significant, but I wouldn't really. It's a challenge, but like
if you look at their billing, they literally have no overheads. They pass on everything to the consumer. Everything. Why are they in the red constantly? I think you must go there and correct this if we approve your nomination.
Kenya Power balance sheet, like a NOC, is it NOC? Yes, needs to be looked at. I think unless we address the kind of exposure they've put themselves into, so that really we need to restructure Kenya Power balance sheet. It is not looking good. I can say on camera that I've seriously looked at it, but the Kenya Power balance sheet and the kind of exposure is quite significant. It should be doing much better to be having a loan of about 100 billion against a revenue of 60 billion. And a lot of that money belongs to KenGen, the generators, and so on and so forth. Is something that boils down to a cash flow. The cash they collect is not enough to service where we almost find ourselves as a country today. We collect so much revenue, is it enough to service our loans and run the social obligations that we need to run as a government? And then so we need to support Kenya Power not with cash, but we need to look at, to re-engineer the whole way of how they do business. Banks will market what would otherwise look like cheap loans, and because a lot of the generators and the lot of generation and build the power sector do get government letters of support. Sometimes the ball ends up being the government responsibility. So, Chairman, there's a job to be done in the energy sector. We need to look at how to restructure their balance sheet. We need to look at how to strengthen the network, which is the power loss today on the network is almost at 20%. So when you're losing 20% and you have to recover from you and me, it's not tenable. So yes, there's work to be done, Chair, and I think we are up to the task. Thank you.
I give you 3 minutes to tell us your last wish.
Chairman, I feel privileged to come to talk to this honorable house today again after being nominated for the position of energy and petroleum, to see whether we can together build this country. The cost of power is a fundamental driver in the economic foundation of any nation, and unless we together address the cost of power, the power mix, the power security, like I said earlier, when we talk about competitive cost of power and we want to bring investors into our special economic zones in Dongonkundu, in Olkaria, where we have ready steam for primary processing of leather. Can we get the cost of power right? Kenya enjoys a very special place in the state of nations in that we do about 90% of green energy. And we are one of the qualifying countries to even go into green hydrogen, which is another phase of development in power and export of power in hydrogen, where it's a requirement that if you're going to go into this green area of development of green hydrogen, you must be using green energy to do that. And as we go forward, except for the challenges we're facing in the security of supply and the cost of power, the fact that Kenya today does about 90% of its energy on a renewable source of energy is one thing that really helps us to address the world climate. And even as we go to COP27 in Egypt in the next 2 weeks, we stand to challenge countries like Germany, who are folded back and they are going back to fossil fuels or coal. We stand to challenge countries like Britain. And I want to confirm, Chair, that with the development of human resource, with the development of geothermal and capacity that we've built, and we are currently exporting into other countries neighboring us, we will be able to develop under my leadership, once confirmed, in the area of renewable energy, in geothermal, in wind, and in